beyond words. From Cabo to wine country, no one connects you to the Pacific coast like Princess. Princess Cruises. Book now.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Road America for the latest round in the Porsche Club America Sim Racing Team Racing Series of 2026. It's a small spread out calendar throughout 2026, and after a few or a couple of rounds in quick succession at Daytona and Sebring, we've had an early summer round in Watkins Glen. Now time for a bit of a later summer round here at Road America. 3-hour races, as they all are, here on July 19th. The penultimate race of the 2026 calendar. Ewan O'Leary here with you, with Alex Goldschmidt taking you through the race this afternoon on RaceSpotTV. And from Maria Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras for this first part of the race. Good to be alongside you for this one, Alex. It is Road America, the venue this time around, with the 963 Porsches and the GT3R Porsches out there on the circuit together in the Team Racing Series in a 3-hour race. This is what we've had throughout the entirety of the season. Every race this season, 3 hours in length. And it's the penultimate round of the season as well. The business ends, certainly. But the thing about these endurance races is they're big races in their own right as well. And everyone's going to want to win the individual race, as well as this being attached to the Team Racing Series Championship as well.
Yes, Ewan, I couldn't agree more. I mean, what a place to then come to for the penultimate round of the Porsche Club of America's Sim Racing Team Racing Series, America's National Park of Speed. These laps are going to go past very, very quickly here for this fourth round.
Certainly for those 963s that they will do. At Road America, the penultimate round, to say, of this season. Road Atlanta will be our finale in pretty much exactly 2 months' time. The format for tonight has already seen the practice session come and go. Qualifying is underway. That's just a 10-minute session for the team's solo session that it is. Warm-up will then be just 5 minutes after that, followed by the race, which will start about quarter to the hour, wherever you are in the world. But that's 1:45 Eastern time and 9:15 in the morning Pacific time over there in America. So far this season, indeed, we've been splitting, and indeed we'll continue to split the classes effectively into 8, if you like. 2 car classes, the Porsche 963 prototypes and the Porsche 911 GT3R GT cars, but also into their driver divisions as well. Pro is the top division, Club second, Sport third, and Challenge fourth. You'll see the colours corresponding here in the standings and then throughout the race as well. So far, we've only had one 963 Pro team, and that's been the Cat 5 Racing GTP team, who are leading the way. Kainan Racing are leading the way in the club class for 963s, ahead of Last 10th Foundry. In the sport class, Backmarker Motorsports are leading Max Schnell 1, and Last 10th Lovebirds are the only ones in the challenge class for the Porsche 963s so far. I believe all of those 6 teams are out here today. I'll double check that when qualifying's underway. In GT3, there's been some bigger grids throughout this season, and so some more interesting championships. Although Saltpet Precision Racing have been pretty dominant in the GT3 Pro standings. They're a long way in front of Imperial Motorsports, who are in second, and Matix Black, who are even further behind than in third. In Club, R-Speed Black are leading in probably the most interesting of the championships. They're only 38 points in front of Gone Broke Racing, and then Missile Motors, the only others to have been at all 3 rounds so far. Motorsports team for the sport class are leading there, ahead of Chroma Motorsports White, and then Max Schnell Zwei, who are a bit further behind there. Alder Creek Performance Racing leading in the challenge, ahead of Chroma Motorsports Black. They're the only 2 who've been at 2 out of 3 so far. Whiskey and Wheels were only there for the first time, last time out at Watkins Glen, making their debut. We had 20 entries at Watkins Glen a few weeks ago. I'd say we've got even more here tonight at Road America, which is good to see. On a scorching day, 2nd of August in Sim, it is 1:45 in the afternoon, but it's 114 degrees Fahrenheit here, Alex. That to us is 45 degrees centigrade. On the track, that is very, very hot.
Oh, that's rather toasty there, you. And that was about the temperature we had for air ambient at Imola for round 3 of the Porsche Sprint Challenge Suisse back at Imola in that big European and UK summer heat wave. But thank goodness that things have calmed down. But that's going to really give an indication of the drivers and the teams are going to really have to look after those tyres around the circuit.
Yeah, indeed. Throughout the stints today, it's going to be a massive factor. The starting fuel for these different categories is 100% for the 963s, but only 80% for the GT3s. So that makes things a little bit different, make the stints slightly shorter, but they will still have to keep an eye on their tyres, no doubt. Let's take a look at some of these first times coming in here in qualifying, and so far it's Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer who are leading the way in the overall in 963. They are only just, though, in front of Last 10th Foundry, who are only 84 thousandths behind. And in the GT3s, Rory Prescott is leading the way for Soulpaper Precision Racing, who've had a brilliant season so far. Nicky Chan is only 64 thousandths behind, though. And it's impressive to see such close margins at such a long circuit. When lap times are more than 2 minutes, you don't expect to see, well, for the GT3s anyway, you don't expect to see such close times as we do here.
I think one of the big things that we've got to remember here, it's a combined effort. So everyone's got to try and make the setup as best as they can. So when you do those driver changes during the race itself, but you've also got to have, you know, when you put your fast pedal in here, like with Steve Comats and the number 210, that car is going to be low fuel, okay, slightly higher centre of gravity, but it's going to be to the liking of the driver behind the wheel. And if you can really muscle this car around this circuit, you know, elevation change, you know, a lot of sweeping medium to fast speed corners, especially when we get to Canada Corner, Bill Mitchell Bend, towards the tail end of the circuit here, you. And if that car's not dialed on in a sixpence, you know, you're not going to get the optimum lap time for the race position start itself.
As seen at the bottom of the screen, one of the prototypes coming through, Lisa Eskridge, is qualifying for the Last 10th Lovebirds team, partnering with Ken Eskridge, of course, currently in 6th place at the moment, and crossing the line with a slight improvement there. Steve Comats hasn't got a time on the board yet, but there's plenty of improvements coming through in GT3. Chris Pye is now going to the top, then overtaken by Chan. Prescott pushed down to 3rd for now, and I don't think has another lap time actually to give here. So Soulpaper Precision Racing actually pushed off the top at the end there, and that's, I think, the first time this season they have been out-qualified for the pole position here in GT3 overall. We'll check that, but I think that is the case. Steve Comats comes towards the line meantime, and he'll be just under a couple of seconds away from the pole time there. He's one of our club drivers for the Missile Motors team, and goes into 10th position now. So good to get him the second time around at least. But there's Robbie Prescott under a little bit of pressure here to keep this 100% record for Soulpaper Precision Racing going.
Yeah, I'm looking at the opening sector, and you've had Chris Payes for Imperial Motorsports in the 453. Pretty much is just slightly quicker by about 2/100. So like there's minimal difference, but you can see Prescott's really trying to work the car through the carousel, and then end up coming through out of sector 2. And it's this run here where you go through the King, as we have James Huff for Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer, currently P2 overall, and has just gone 3/10 quicker than Will Wolf, who's currently on pole overall in the Last 10th Foundry, 010-963.
Yeah, so there's a real battle for the pole going on at the moment between a couple of teams, but potentially you can add Charlie Boyer as well in the Kainar Racing team into that conversation, although he's completed his laps for the excuse me, for the session now and is in the pit lane. Can Huth find these extra hundredths and thousandths of a second that he needs to take pole? No, he does a 52.3. And Last 10th Foundry have taken the pole away right at the very end with Will Wolf. Can Robbie Prescott do it in the GTs? He certainly can. He improves by nearly 3/10 of a second. And by just less than 1/10 of a second, he's in front of Chris Pye and Nicky Chan now. Is there any response coming? I don't think so from either of the two others. Chris Pye is not still out there. The Last 10th 016 is still going of Sajid Zuhair over the line. Can't improve too much. Prescott has maintained that 100% record with a great last gasp effort there to take pole by just less than 1/10 of a second.
It was how he the first sector wasn't the greatest, but it was sectors 2 and 3. It might have been just that slight improvement, Ewan, but it made all the difference. And it was that final sector that really helped Robbie Prescott to put it at the top of the timesheets.
Yeah, it was in a margin, in a qualifying session of close margins. It was never going to be huge differences, and it's less than a tenth of a second between pole and second in both classes here, in both car categories, I should say. But Prescott pulls it out the bag right at the very end there for Solpecin Racing, and gets to the top of the standings again. They haven't won every race this season, by the way. They were second at Sebring to ST Racing Esports, who've only been at that Sebring round, made a one-off effort that day. But they have got pole on each occasion, as they have done here as well. So there you have it. There's the end of qualifying. And now they'll step into a warm-up session where, by the way, the temperature is only increasing. 49 degrees centigrade. Oh, it's just changed over. So it got up to 49 by the end of that qualifying session. It's now down to 35. That's 95 Fahrenheit. So it's... Look, well, it's jumping around a little bit on my screen. So I'll wait for that to level out a little bit before we talk about that again. But yeah, great laps at the end there, especially from Robbie Prescott, who has taken the pole position for today. I'm not sure whether we can have a look at the race grid heading into our 3-hour race just while this warm-up session is going on here for this 3-hour race here today. But in the meantime, while we wait for the grid, we'll have a look at the lap itself. The fastest lap overall here, last 10th Foundry, at the pole lap of a 152.2 through the first corner. Super high speed through here in a prototype, especially where you've got that downforce to rely on. Then down the hill before you get on the brakes here for a tricky braking zone at turn 3. And coming out of here to what I believe, Alex, is by far the best overtaking chance on this lap, the downhill braking zone towards turn 5.
Yeah, through the moraine sweep, you've really got to, I've seen it where people, I think we've both seen it, Ewan, where people have gone to the outside and actually gone late on the brakes and tried to carry the momentum through the corner. You've got to be very committed here, get it nicely nailed on the apex, and then, now it's to run into the carousel. Through the left here, and then it's kind of medium and far, medium speed corners that you've got to really contend with. But you've got to line it up nicely. Now through the hurry downs in towards the turn 8 to 10 complex. So this is when the carousel comes to be very important on your run through into T11 at the kink.
This is such an almost never-ending long right-hander here through the carousel. More than 180 degrees switchback, by the way, from where you are coming out of turn 8 before you're out of turn 9. Absolutely flat out through turn 11. Meantime, through the kink in a prototype. As long as it stays dry, that will remain the case all throughout the race. Then down on the brakes, trying to get it straightened out before you get to Canada Corner. Then trying not to use too much of that exit there. Try and stay all 4 wheels within the white lines, or at least 2 of them, sorry. Through the penultimate corner, minding those curves, and then minding that braking zone there as well, where it just bends to the right slightly. It can very much drag you straight on and off the road if you're not too careful. But that was the qualifying lap and the pole lap indeed from Will Wolf, who has set the best lap time of that session by just under a tenth of a second over the rest of the field. A pretty remarkable lap time it was as well from Wolf. So the race will be underway in just a couple of minutes time, but for then, let's remind you for the first time this afternoon, of course, that we're delighted to have Princess Cruises on board as our PCA Sim Racing title sponsor throughout 2026. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places we visit, and the friendliest crew at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles on September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to speak to a PCA travel concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. say, we're just a couple of moments away from this race getting underway. Now that the track temperature has actually normalised a little bit here, it is 50 Celsius, by the way, 122 Fahrenheit. That's very, very hot. Here's the grid, though, ready for today's race. Will Wolf is on the pole with a 152.2 that we've just seen there. 16 thousandths of a second faster than James Hoof in the Imperial Motorsports car, and that is the front row. David Boyer will start from third place after Charlie Boyer qualified, the Car9 Racing Club car in third. And Mike Sachs for the Backmarker Motorsports car. Max Snell 1 is the other Sport Class 963 in fifth. And Lisa Eskridge will start the last 10th of Birds Challenge Class 963 in sixth. Then we're to the GT3s, where Robbie Prescott has taken the pole here with that late lap time to get in front of Chris Pies. Nicky Chan and Sazay Zuhair make it a last 10th racing fifth row. Matt Siddall is in 11th place ahead of Rodney Campbell by only 28 thousandths of a second between those two as well. And they themselves only 6 tenths off of Prescott, by the way. 13th place for Peter Kummer, who is the first of the club class drivers. Brad Dunn for Crown Motorsports White, the first of the sport class. In fact, they're lined up on opposite sides of the grid here for this part. Steve Komatz on one side, then Sheldon Tahowchuk on the other. Chad Casion on the club class part of the grid there on as well to round out the top 8 team. Tim Taplin is in 19th, head of Anthony DiMincenzo, who rounds out the top 20, and Patrick Aguirre is then 21st. Those two there are the only challenge GT3s here today for the race. Well, it's 3 hours that we'll put on the clock. Our system's already predicting a 96 lap race. They've gone early. I would suspect that we're probably going to get a few less than that, but we're going to get 3 hours of racing. That is for sure. And the track temperature is not budging. It is very, very hot. Now, the thing about this team racing series that's a little bit different to a lot of series you might have seen before is that we do have a time multiplier on here. So while it is starting right in the heat of the day, time will pass twice as quickly as it normally does. So we'll be racing in sim until 7 p.m, which means that you'd hope temperatures will be cooler by then.
If they're not cooler by then, Ewan, everyone might have to start getting their factor 50 out, especially with the temperatures as they've been. 121 degrees Fahrenheit, 49 degrees track temp. Yeah, I mean, with that 2 times multiplier, again, the teams are going to really have to have their heads on a swivel, because if you need to react, you've got to do it on the fly.
Indeed, it is going to be a busy race, that is for sure. And a quick gridding process allows us to get towards this race start very quickly indeed, and not much time for Will Wolf to think about how he's going to get in towards turn 1 at the head of the 963 field. Then there's a GT3 field that's a little bit further behind, and there'll be a bit of a staggered start there. So Robbie Prescott will have his own choice as to when he gets going as well at the front of the GT3 field. Here comes the pace car, though, off to the right-hand side now and into the pit lane, and handing control over to Will Wolf of the Last 10th Foundry team in the 963 to get 3 hours of racing underway for the penultimate time in the Porsche North America Sim Racing Team Racing Series of 2026. Now he can see the start-finish line. Now the choice is his. When the green flag flies, Wolf will be underway, and there we go. Reacting well, Will Wolf gets off to a good start on the inside of the front row, with James Hoof in second position, already getting challenged by Charlie Boyer, who has indeed started that Car9 racing car from third position there. It's a pretty uniform start in GT3 as well, as they tiptoe down towards turn 1. In fact, Boyer is on the inside of Hoof here for second place on the way towards turn 3, and there might well be a change there in 963. Oh, and there's a spin in the GT3 field, and contact! One of the Porsches goes spinning around and into the wall, coming through the first couple of corners and reversing already as well. That's not ideal. It's Matt Siddall in the Matrix Black team who've gone around, and they've gone to the back of the field straight away.
Yeah, it was pretty even on the start between Prescott and Pies, but yeah, what a shame there for Matt Siddall. Just, again, as we know, Ewan, when GT3s are very quick, very close in proximity and very closely bunched up, something unfortunately has to give, and Matt Siddall has got to really start fighting his way back. He's now dropped to about 7 seconds behind the number 6 Alder Creek Performance Racing car with Tim Taplin behind the wheel.
A dramatic start, perhaps more dramatic than hoped for Matt Siddall at the beginning of this race, as the 963s get underway cleanly. They have all stayed where they qualified in the end, despite the fighting. Let's try and dissect how this happened for Siddall. So there was an initial slide for one of the last 10th drivers. Now that might have been Sajid Zuhair in the 016. Just a little bit of contact then with Siddle, who wasn't really doing anything wrong himself, but was caught up in an unfortunate one there.
Yeah, it's always a shame when you're trying to position your car and you think, okay, I can probably get through this, and then all of a sudden you're the one that is the unwilling participant in the event that's not of your making. So but already Matt Siddle has got the bit between the teeth, because I said there was a 7-second gap to Tim Taplin in front of him. Well, let's just say he's taken about 4.1 seconds out of Tim Taplin in the opening sector. So I think the balance could be redressed very, very shortly. So expect Matt Siddle in the number 55 Matrix Black car to go storming through the GT3 field.
Yeah, I think he might be a source of entertainment for us for the next hour or two, that's for sure. As we look at the 963s meantime, Charlie Boyer did indeed start the car that he qualified. David Boyer was in that car briefly, but decided against... they must have been doing some switching in warm-up or something for that to come up on our graphics, so they were maybe umming and ahhing a bit about that, but I'd be surprised. Charlie Boyer, the obvious choice since he qualified to actually begin this race. The club and sport class teams are often pretty well matched, and as you can see, we order them based on car class here, but no more than that. In terms of the actual different teams, they will race amongst classes for the most part, and we're going to see a good race for the overall, it looks like here, while the club class driver of Will Wolf gets off to a good start at the very front of the field. This is going on down in the GT3 field. Ninth place, Steve Komatz is really heading the field here. You can see the train that he is creating behind him already in these early stages. And in behind him, Chad Casey looking to get past Jeremy May on this second lap of the race.
Yeah, Steve Komatz trying to see if he can chop down that gap that's between himself and Adam Gerling in the Chroma Motorsports white number 495. So we're on board now with the 550. Chad Cason trying to close in on Jeremy Main for Road Runner Hurricane in the 959. And you can just see how smooth Chad's steering inputs are at the moment. You've got to be precise here at America's National Park, the National Park of Speed. And you can see Cason's being a little bit braver on the brakes here, Ewan, and trying to see if he can tee up a move.
Yes, and you can just see, by the way, the first penalty coming through of the day. The stewards have decided that Sajid Zuhair at fault for that incident with Matt Siddle, and he has got a black flag. He's just at the moment in front of Rodney Campbell anyway. As he decided to serve that straight away, he has. So I think it'll be a drive-through for Zuhair, but that's going to put him right to the back of the field, indeed behind Matt Siddle. So he's also going to be one of those having to fight his way right back through the field after that incident on lap 1.
Yeah, and that's always the way that if you're the one that's found to be causing that incident, he's stopped in his marks in the pit lane as Zuhair. So it's going to be interesting to see how that car is going to get up the field. But in the meantime, well, let's just say this way. Matt Siddle has already got through on Tim Taplin, and Patrick Aguirre in the Whiskey Wheels 981 is the next person in his crosshairs and is about 1.5 seconds up the road. So the source of entertainment will soon be upon us, Ewan, as soon as I think Matt Siddle gets to maybe Anthony Di Vincenzo in the Machinal 2 420 and Chad Cason in the Stallions GT3 550. So yeah, folks, wait for the fireworks.
Well, yeah, because that group that some of whom you point out there is all one basically. So Siddle's just going to go one to the other back there in the back of the pack. Out front, it is starting to stretch out a little bit more, and it always surprises me at the beginning of these races. I mean, to be fair, Robbie Prescott's doing a good job of stretching out a lead that, to a bigger extent than maybe he has done on some other occasions here this season. But the qualifying was so close, and Prescott only just got ahead of Pies by 1/10 of a second in qualifying. Yet after 3 laps in open play racing, that's 1.2, 1.3 seconds already.
Oh, we've had a spinner.
Oh, more trouble here. Steve Komatz at the head of that group we were talking about for 9th has got into the wall on that straight between the kink and Canada corner.
Ah, well, it's one of the fastest places on the circuit, and you know you're at the limit of adhesion on the tyres. And well, the big thing is, was Steve Comax was that self-induced or was he assisted? Is the main big question, because he was running 9th at that point. But yeah, like you say, with Robbie Prescott, the first sector wasn't the greatest. He was about a 10th down on Chris Pies, but on this previous lap, he was 4/10 quicker in the opening sector. So, and then you look at sector 2, it's another 10th quicker, but then he loses that differential again, and it's the 3rd sector. So kind of what we saw, the reverse in qualifying, is now being sort of flipped 180. We're now going to see what happens with Steve Comax. So he's going to turn it in. There were 2 wheels on the grass, and the back end goes round, bang, straight into the wall. Right front takes the impact.
But watch it. Why did he spun around when we saw him? Oh no! He got collected. He got collected by, is that Di Vincenzo? Looks like it. Yeah, it was. So Di Vincenzo arrives on the scene, unawares really to as to what happened, because obviously that happened round the corner from where he was. And he hits Steve Comax, which sends Comax around, but also gives Di Vincenzo some damage. He's now comfortably behind Cito and Patrick Aguirre as well, who is up into the top 10 for the first time. Now then, speaking of a qualifying battle that is also turned into a race battle early on here in the first 10 minutes, Will Wolf has been reeled back in by James Huth, and Charlie Boyer's not that far away either here. A proper race between these top 3 for the race lead at the moment after about 10 minutes.
Yeah, and James Huth at the minute is the fastest out there. Well, was the fastest out there in terms of lap time, but actually between him, Will Wolf and Charlie Boyer, James Huth is actually the slowest out of the trio, but he's sort of piggy in the middle here, you. And so if Charlie Boyer gets any closer, he's about 9/10 off of the number 13 Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer car, then James is going to really be between a rock and a hard place. It's a case of, do I attack the guy in front, or do I have to really defend sternly against the individual behind me?
Yeah, indeed. Well, at the moment, as they come through the kink, the next bit of traffic for them, I guess the first bit proper is Sazay Zuhair, who's just not quite made his way to the line yet, so traffic's not that far away from us at this early stage of the race. This is where it always gets interesting for these multi-class races. There are 15 of those GT3s out there today. There's only 6 963s, so they are severely outnumbered. And that means there's a lot of work for them to do through the traffic. Here's the last of the traffic they're going to have to deal with. Robbie Prescott still slowly and painfully for the others extending out a margin. Last time round he set the fastest lap of the entire race so far, a 2-minute 5.8, a couple of attempts quicker than those behind him who are chasing.
Yeah, and he's already up by more than a 10.5 in the opening sector. It was a high, well, it was the 37.37 for Robbie Prescott in sector 1. Chris Pais, the 37.54. And keep an eye on Nicky Chan in the 011 last 10th racing car. So, you know, a great qualifying battle for pole position in GT3 between these 3 teams. But I think Chris Pais is now going to think, oh, I can't close down. So here's a slow-mo replay of what we saw with Missile Motors' Steve Comax. So we see the first impact. He lost it because he actually put the left side wheels on the grass coming out of the kink. So that then meant that the back end started to rotate initially. So the front right takes the brunt of it. The car is continually going. So Steve Comax is trying to rejoin the circuit. And that was when we saw the contact between him and 420 of Anthony Di Vincenzo. Running on board now with Nicky Chan, who's getting really close to the back of Imperial Motorsports' Chris Pais in the battle for P2 and GT3. And this could be a really interesting battle because, again, Ewan, that's the one thing about GT3 Porsches. When there's one that's got a really good setup dialed in, they are going to go absolutely all guns blazing.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, interested to see how these two actually play this because of the gap to Solpeck there. Are they going to try and work together to bring that back, or are they just going to fight amongst themselves? Oh, Di Vincenzo's not had a good start to this race at all. He's already made contact with Steve Comac. Now he's made contact with the wall pretty hard coming out of the carousel. Somehow he's still going, having not made a pit stop in this race, which feels remarkable really, because I mean the contact with Comac wasn't too heavy. That contact with the concrete wall really was.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's going to be dependent on Di Vincenzo whether he's going to tough it out or whether he thinks, you know what, it's not worth putting that risk in if that car's damaged. If there's steering damage, if there's suspension damage, the car's not going to feel right, and it's just going to lose them time in the greater scheme of things.
Indeed. So you've got to think about this race as a sort of 3-hour entirety, really, when you're thinking about pit stops, even if that is for damage. If you can persevere, might well be worth doing if that helps you out a little bit later on in the day. Well, coming up to a quarter of an hour gone, and the battle for the lead overall is close as it's ever been, really. It was less than 3 attempts not that long ago. Here it is again through the carousel. Will Wolf under pressure from James Huth. They have passed Sazé Zuhair, so they're officially into the traffic, although it doesn't feel like it yet. The real meat of the traffic is to come at the beginning of the next lap.
Yeah, and it's just going to be about that rule that we all know in multi-class racing. If you are the faster vehicle, you have to make the move nice and cleanly without impeding the drivers that you're passing. So you don't want, and we have seen it before, Ewan, where someone takes a little bit too much risk for that little bit of reward, and then it all goes horribly wrong, and then you wonder why you made that decision, that you could have just waited maybe another lap or two to get that manoeuvre done. But then if you're battling with someone for a position as they go past Anthony Di Vincenzo in the Machinel sidecar for the 420, you know, you're going to think, like, why have I just had that moment and I've just compromised all that hard work we've put into this race so far?
A little bit wide from Wolf there, down to turn 3. Now is this the first chance of the day for James Huth to actually get himself past here? As he gets into the slipstream, they're going to get past that GT3 fairly comfortably before the turn. Not sure Huth's close enough here. He just lifts off on the way down on the brakes. Carefully he does it into turn 5. Difficult on the way downhill there in towards the left-hander. Very tight left-hander. Sharper than 90 degrees down there. But that, I think, gives us an idea of just how close you have to be, really, in a 963. Because they spend less time on the straights, they're faster. They also spend, therefore, less time slipstreaming one another. And that means that it looked to me like Huth was finding that very difficult. Even though he was only 2 or 3 tenths behind, it was very difficult to see him actually getting alongside Wolf there to actually make that move work.
Yeah, and it's always about the case of just micromanaging things, as they're now going to be catching up to Patrick Agrier in the 981 Whiskey Wheels car, running in the Manti Grello livery. And again, they're just making sure that there's plenty of room, especially going into corners. And now they've just gone through up through Canada Corner, through Bill Mitchell Bend at turn 13. And it's maybe the straightaway, probably going down into the Moraine Sweep. If you can have those as your opportune moments for overtaking as a 963 going past the GT3R, then that's great, that's heavenly, because that's when you're at maximum speed and full attack. Whereas around the rest of the course, you're sort of, it's kind of a double-edged sword, and you sort of like think, is this going to be feasible? Do I just back out of it? What do I do now? And you've got to have like cat-like reflexes and split-second thinking to make that decision that is going to work.
Indeed. We're still in the early stages here of the Team Racing Series event at Road America this afternoon. Long way to go in this race just yet, as the 963s take on traffic for the very first time. It'll be a while until they get here, though. A battle for second between Chris Pies and Nicky Chan. 2 of those who have been hovering around the sort of top 10 areas of the Pro Class standings in the Sim Racing Series through the most recent seasons. They're doing it again here. Robbie Prescott the same, although he's out front by 2.5 seconds. Another penalty has just come in, by the way, for 9 2:55.9. That's Jeremy Main, who has got a penalty this time around, the second of the day already. I'll tell you what that's for, to be honest with you. He'll have to drive down pit lane, and they're never ideal penalties, but the time lost through this pit lane is almost or over half a minute, so you really want to avoid it here if possible.
Yeah, and penalty early in the race. Again, it all comes down to strategy, like you said, Ewan. It's a 3-hour, it's a team race, hence the name of the series. So you've got to think about not just your colleague that's going to be getting behind the wheel when you exact those driver changes, but then it's also for the betterment of the team, especially with this and one more round to go. You've still got to think about the longer game. You don't want to be put into a situation where any move in the season finale could make all the difference between one team becoming champion and one team not becoming champion, as we ride on board with the 453. Well, I think that's 453 there. But no, Jeremy Main now in pit road for Roadrunner Hurricane. So that's going to drop them down probably pretty much to the back end of the GT3 field. But yeah, looking at the run that Robbie Prescott's done, he's got that gap over Chris Paes from Imperial Motorsports up to 2.3 seconds, and that is climbing slowly. Prescott is doing a really good job in the opening 20 minutes to get Solpeck on the right foot forward.
Yeah, just doing an excellent job so far in this race. Solpeck were, by the way, able to take the race victory in the previous race, by the way, ahead of Imperial Motorsports 453, who are currently in second, and then another Imperial Motorsports car, number 20, the Kingfisher car, which I don't think is here today, but they're on a great run of form, that team, and they are running away at the front again here. These guys very much feel like they're working together to try and close on the leader, or indeed help one another fuel save a little bit, because that's what you'd expect to see so early on in an endurance race. Really, you wouldn't expect to see side-by-side racing. It would be deemed sort of unhelpful, really, to be doing all that so far, and so you'd think this is all about fuel saving for these guys back here, as the last 10th Foundry team come flying past there in 0-1-0. They still lead by 1 second, having pretty much come through the traffic for the first time now.
Yeah, and we'll get through those cycles, Ewan, whereby they'll have the pit stops and then they'll hopefully try and get those cars back out into clean air. But with the way that the nature of this circuit, especially when you come into pit lane, you've got that crest, and then down the start-finish straight, descending into that 90 right at turn 1. You've got to be very, very careful if you're a 963, because it's about just judging the pit lane exit. You don't want to cross that white line. That's a black flag penalty. You'll be straight into the pits again. And you want to make sure that you come out into clear air, which means that the driver is completely calm and settled, rather than having to worry about if there's a car that they'll have to worry if there's another 963 that's trying to beat them for position. Well, that's quite a funky race helmet there for Nicky Chan.
I always forget that. Nicky Chan does have a rather extravagant helmet. There you are. Goodness me. It always catches me off guard.
But I have to say, at least there's a little bit more attention to detail on the race suits as well. It looks like he's got Stand 21 on the lapels there on his shoulders. But I looked at that. I mean, if that had goggled eyes on it, you'd probably think it's a minion.
Yeah. Yes. Oh dear me. Anyway, as I say, Nicky Chan's had that or a similar for a while, but it just catches me off guard every time. Anyway, he's still running in third, no longer able to stay with the pace, it looks like, of Chris Paes. In fact, his times have really started to go out in the last few moments to the 2 minute 6.6, and I do wonder how much of that is down to the temperatures we're seeing at the moment. 122 degrees Fahrenheit, just gone up to 123, 51 degrees Celsius. It's going to take a while for this race really to cool down, because we started at 1 p.m. in Sim, even though we've got a 2 times multiplier of time. we're still only coming up to 2 p.m. in Sim now. That's still pretty much the heat of the day. So these temperatures are going to last for at least the first couple of stints, I would say.
Yeah, I'd probably say that the tyres are going to be chirping blue murder, really, for I would start to say probably the first 2/3 of this race. And it's when we get into that golden hour, that final 60 minutes, Stuart, that's where the temps will go down, because at that point we'll be at 5 p.m. In terms of the sim time. So, one of the 963s has had a little bit of a moment.
Just trying to see which one at the moment. See if we can grab a replay. But
I'm thinking it might be Lisa Eskridge in the sister last 10th Lovebirds car, the 012 possibly.
Yeah, I mean that 012 has been a ways off the back of the field for some time and remains quite a long way off the back of the field in the 963 field, and indeed might well start to just drop a little bit overall now as well, with some of the GT3s getting past as well, but we'll wait and see on that. Either way, the guys at the front of the field continue on as normal, 1.2, 1.3 seconds apart, and just over a second, by the way, between the GT3 leaders, so they're starting to come together here. Chris Pies has tried, I think, to time this correctly, not go out too hard too soon, as indeed that is the last 10th car going. Sony again, right in front of Pies there, who had to stand on the brakes and loses a few temps as a result of it. This is Eskridge trying to stay out the way of Charlie Boyer coming out of the final turn there. Well,
just to put this into perspective, before Chris Pies was held up there inadvertently, he had just taken 8 tenths to the decimal point out of Robbie Prescott. And now that has meant that Chris Pies has ended up being 1.8 seconds. He was a second behind. That middle sector would have made all the difference and would have seen Pies right on the back bumper of Prescott for the GT3 race lead.
Yeah, exactly. And that was looking like a long way away at one stage in this early part of the race, that's for sure. It was looking very unlikely that we were going to get to that point at any stage. So just tries to stay behind Chris Pies here, allow him to get on with it. Although that gap really has ballooned out, 1.8 seconds, as you can see, the Imperial Motorsports team. But I think it was a good sign actually for Pies that actually the timing that he was working on there was actually working there, and he was getting closer to Seoul Pepsi Racing's Robbie Prescott there, because he'd taken it easy initially, and then he's pushed on and he's gaining the time, having sort of not taken the life out of his tyres in the first few minutes.
Yeah, as Matrix Silver's number 29, Rodney Campbell, is now battling with Nicky Chan in the 011 last 10th racing car. This is for P3 overall in the GT3 division. But yeah, like you say, with regards to Chris Pies, I think he decided, right, temps are high, let's look after the tyres in the first 20 to 30, 20 minutes of 15 to 20 minutes of this race, and then wait to see what happens to Campbell in front. And we're still, I mean, the track temperature has only dropped by 1 degree, but it seems like Chris Pies has been able to work those tyres well, but not go either above or below the optimum range of the tyres, despite the heat.
Such a big discussion point here today, the tyres in the heat of Road America. It is one of the summer rounds, much like Watkins Glen. Obviously a new endurance race to the IMSA calendar. That's what we're mirroring, easy for me to say, here in the Team Racing Series of 2026. We're going through the through the same schedule. Just a week before the iRacing Road America 6 Hours takes place, a special event next weekend, and right around the IMSA race at this venue. But I say that things happening in the summer months mean that it can be very, very hot indeed. I've done Watkins Glen 6 hour races that have been up towards 60 degrees on the track in iRacing before. quite a few years ago now when we used the GTEs, which shows you how long ago it was. But it has happened. These races are, because of the time of year that these races are. Whoa! That was very close. That was nearly teammates hitting one another there. Nicky Chan having to skip to the right just to get past Lisa Eskridge, who's trying to stay over his way. And Rodney Campbell follows. That was extremely close as well.
Campbell's looking for a move now on Nicky Chan because of that slight moment that the 011 has just had. They're coming through the carousel. They've got to wait to really bury the throttle down. And here comes the run through the kink. I'm just waiting here for Campbell maybe to have a little bit of an attack, maybe on the braking zone into Canada corner. He's right in the draft now. But Nicky Chan is trying to make the back end of that Last Sense Racing 011 as wide as humanly possible into Canada corner. No, Campbell's not going to get an opportunity this time. But that was a big scare for Chan on that particular occasion.
Well, it certainly was. Did have to have good reactions there to avoid Eskridge going slowly coming out of turn 7. And thankfully did. That would have been an awkward conversation amongst the team, that's for sure. I've already seen the interruption to the GT3 field as soon as traffic starts to be a factor. We always talk about it being a factor for the prototypes as they have to be the ones to actually make the passes, but you've got to remember what it's like for the GTs as well. They're the ones who've got to let the passes happen, which is not easy in itself either.
No, and it's going to be there's still plenty of time left to go as we're nearly about to hit the end of the first half hour here, Ewan. I mean, like I said, these laps are going to go quickly, but there's been so much that's been going on. This has been a very busy track. Now, despite the fact that there are 21 cars, as you said, six GTPs with the 963, and then the remainder being the GT3s, there is something always happening with a dual multi-class race such as this.
Yeah, that certainly is. It's the beauty of endurance racing. Here is the battle for the lead. Are we going to see the first change here between Will Wolf and James Huth at the front of this race? Huth in the slipstream, again, is not making much of a difference. And this is the problem for him, really, when he's stuck behind Will Wolf, is that whenever he seems to get down the straight, get even a decent exit out of the final corner or out of turn 3 onto this straight coming up, just doesn't seem to make enough of a difference. What's the exit like this time? It's fairly even. Actually, it's in favour of Wolf at the front, so that 0.2 should be enough for him to hold on here. He's going to weave around a little bit to break the slipstream for just a couple more moments, and yeah, Wolf holds on again despite such a small margin as he came onto the front straight there, and indeed the next straight. He still has enough.
The thing is with James Huth, I mean, yeah, you might think in many respects that 0.3 seconds, as we're going to see now, picture in picture, Lisa Eskridge. Oh, well, that's a big off track. And, well, I think that was Chris Pies going through the shot along with Robbie Prescott. I think really James Huth has got to get a real good run. He's got to be right on the rear wing and diffuser of Will Wolf in the last 10th Foundry 010 GTP car to be in with a chance. You know, you've got to be within that 1/10 to 2/10 of a second window. But 0.3, you might think, yeah, I've got a shot, but you've got to be so late on the brakes. We're going to have a look here of Johan Nye from Mach Schnell 1, and that's a rotate right into the racing line.
Good avoidance there from whoever that was coming out of turn 6 to avoid Johan Nye, who spun round through there. And in the sport class is the only challenger to Backmarker Motorsports, who are already a minute in front of them with the instance of the last couple of moments. Traffic's already spread out quite a lot, but Will Wolf should be able to hold on to the lead here. As we see that car that had to make the avoiding action, seems like it was Sheldon Zaharsha. Here comes Matt Siddle, we haven't seen too much of yet, but he's been steadily working his way through the field. And here is 6th place he's going to get to now. Down the inside into turn 6. And he's made a very solid recovery here, Siddle. Now only one position down on where he qualified in just half an hour.
Yeah, with Zakharachuk, it was going into turn 5 off of the Moraine sweep, came out of the corner, caught the right rear tyre on the dusty stuff and just sit on. And there's Johan Knight reversing the car again, and that's into the carousel. So I think it's more his pride that's been hurt on that particular occasion, but not the way you want to have two major spins on one lap and then scattering the GT3 field from Sheldon Zakarajczyk in the Motorsports 83 Sport Class car, and then everyone else, including Matt Siddle on the recovery drive, having to avoid.
Yeah, he's been great coming through the field so far. These two battling for the lead continue on here. Nice, have more trouble here. A couple of corners later at turn 8 this time. Too late on the brakes, trying to still turn in nevertheless, and has a half spin through turn 8. I mean, these Porsche 963s are difficult to drive, there's no doubt about that. Difficult to drive quickly as well, and some of these guys at the front make it look very, very easy. The reality is, it is a very tough challenge indeed.
Yeah, and that's the thing when it's a heavily aerodynamic dependent car like that. You've just got to be very, very careful. You know, you look at the GT3s, they're an easier machine to drive, but when it's like proper, you know, full-on, high-class prototype racing, and you're pushing 200 miles an hour at some points, especially coming down into T1 on the brakes, you've got to be so more precise. There's a skill set to running in a GTP car, and you know, Johan Knight, as you rightly said, not having the greatest of luck so far.
No, not so much. As these guys make their way towards turn 5 on another occasion here at the end of, or the beginning, I should say, of another lap. I remind you once again that we're thrilled, of course, to have Princess Cruises on board as our PCA Sim Racing title sponsor throughout 2026. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places we visit, and the friendliest crew at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles on September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to get and speak with a PCA travel concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. Well, just 35 minutes gone in this one, and here's the closest battle of one of them in GT3 for third position. Nicky Chan just in front of Rodney Campbell, as they have been ever since Chris Pies went off and up the road. It's been a little while since we've seen any pit stops here, really, and certainly we haven't had any scheduled ones yet, but these GT3s are limited to 80% of a normal tank. I would say it's maybe 45 to 50 minutes. Therefore, we're likely to see pit stops in the not too distant future. For them when they come, but the 963s will be running to a similar length of stop time.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, Ewan. I mean, especially with the fact that we've had the track temperature since the beginning of the race for the first time has dropped under 50 degrees Celsius. I could be like the Ribena Berry and just shout woohoo and just jump off my feet, but that's not actually appropriate at the moment. Nevertheless, it is going down. So we are now seeing, we're at 2:14 p.m. sim time. It's going to be interesting to see, even with the temperature still being very hot on the circuit, is about the tyre management. Now, we mentioned about this earlier with how Robbie Prescott went flying out the gates from green. Chris Piers was trying to get round the outside of him on the run down to T1. Thought, I'll just save my tyres a little bit. So it's dependent, as you rightly say, whether the GT3s, are they going to do single stints? Are they going to do double stints? We could see a double stint possibility, maybe at the tail end of the race. But at this early stage, you know, you want those tyres fresh, especially if you're battling for position.
Yeah, indeed, and I do think in terms of those temperatures for the tyres, I think we have reached the peak now. We're back down to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which is still very warm, as here comes Campbell down the inside on Nicky Chan. The fuel-saving game seemed to be over as Campbell gets down the inside there for Matrix Silver. With the last 10th car able to run around the outside and hold on here. So it seems that we've reached that point in the stint where Campbell can save no more fuel. It can't actually give him another lap anymore. And so with the last, maybe 8 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes beckoning here for the first stint in GT3, Campbell is beginning to make his move to the outside again as they come down the hill towards turn 5. Nearly contact between the two of them. Down on the brakes though on the inside line, and Chan is able to keep that position.
Yeah, there could have been an opportunity of a switchback maybe by Campbell trying to go to the inside, but he committed to the outside of the corner at T5, so that put him on the back foot. So once again, he's just got to try and keep an eye on where there's going to be... And you can see there, he was really late on the brakes going through into the hurry down. So now they're going to go through the carousel, and it's just waiting, and Chan will be on the power now. So accelerate out there and go at full speed through into turn 11 at the Kink before the run through into Canada corner as we ride on board on the windscreen cam with Rodney Campbell. And you can hear not a lift. The speed continues to build. Then there's the lift there, just to steady up and get ready for the braking zone into turn 12 at Canada corner.
Yeah, there's the lift in the end. I think he was more than happy to go for it turn 1, turn 5. He's clearly more comfortable at making moves there. He's less so into Canada corner, where there are a few more things that can go wrong. Through the final turn for Chan, who's much further in front this time round, and he can focus forward. But it's very difficult to focus forward when you've got Campbell right behind you like this, because he's already given it one go. That's Rodney Campbell. It's pretty hard to then put that to the back of your mind as you try and continue on here. So Chan's going to find this tricky to push on without continually looking in his mirrors here at Campbell and what he's doing to try and make his way past in the next few moments.
Yeah, and like you say, with regards to, just trying to increase the pace, increase the intensity towards the end of the opening stint, as we are about a minute away from the first 40 minutes completed. And again, it's just been like between Chan and Campbell, you can see that Chan going very wide to sweep the car through and get the rotational mass to hit the apex through a turn 5 off the Marine sweep. So he's been able to keep that gap between himself and Rodney Campbell. And it's just about judging things. Again, endurance, yes, you might say, oh yeah, it's endurance. Aren't they meant to be consistent on pace? Yes, but there'll be times when a driver will be told by the team, right, you're low on fuel, your tyres might be at the end of their life, but you need to get some distance between yourself and the guy behind, or the driver behind you, just to give us that little bit of potential advantage on an upcoming pit stop. And as we there see a wonderful onboard with Will Wolf, and that was going through on Lisa Eskridge on the sister car in last 10th Lovebirds. Will Wolf absolutely on a mission, but James Huth is only 3/4 of a second behind, and there he is.
Indeed. Two battles here for podium positions in both categories. The 963 battle for the lead. We're on board with Huth down the bottom of your screen, the top of your screen. And Chance Creston hold on to that podium position in the GT3 class. It's a better run from Huth that time round, coming out of the final corner. He's in the sixth ring of race leader Will Wolf. Can they both get the clear of them both? Yes, they can. So the exchange happens there. The 963 is able to get past them both on the front straight. So no difference to be made for either battle, really. They're both still as they are. I feel like they're in a little bit of a stalemate at the moment. Not sure what it was that presented Campbell with his opportunity, like what we saw in towards turn 1, but we haven't really seen one of those again since then.
I think what we do see from Rodney Campbell in terms of braking, we're probably going to see it again a little bit later on in the lap, but when he was challenging Nicky Chan for P3, it was especially coming down the Marine sweep into turn 5. He was so late, so aggressive on the brakes, that I mean, if he misjudged it completely, he would have rolled forward and hit Chan in the back bumper and probably turned the 011 around as there's another 9.6 getting through. I think that might, that's Charlie Boyer in P3 in the 963 division. And he's about 4.5 seconds off of James Huth. And the pendulum swing between Chan and Campbell is like Campbell's really teed him up for a move. And look, he's lost a lot of time because he's had to let Charlie Boyer go past, but it's compromised his run and trying to battle Nicky Chan for P3.
Yeah, massively has. But again, traffic will give and take, and he'll be able to get back again with maybe the next bit of traffic, who knows, between these guys. And don't forget, the pit stops are so close now. The fact that we're nearly 45 minutes into this race, we're about to see pit stops in the near future. But that will be a relief to all these drivers to be able to come down pit lane and certainly get a change of tyres. Now, I think it's since the last race that the new iRacing rules about not being able to change tyres and refuel at the same time have been in place if you select that within your league. So we'll just keep an eye out for that over the course of today, whether that's
Campbell's
a decision
in
now that the drivers have to make. And Campbell is indeed in. He's seen that gap open to Chan. He's thought, well, now's as good a time as any to kick off the GT3 pit stops.
Yeah, actually a pretty shrewd decision. I think when he found that he was losing time, get out of it and go, right, get the car in. It's up on its air jacks. And, well, the track temperature, Ewan, it did dip. It's gone up again. So we're back to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius. So that says to me it's going to be a brand new set of boots, fill the car up and get it back out there.
Yep, you can refuel and do tyres at the same time. I mean, it's in line with IMSA rules, as the schedule is. So not surprising. So 33 seconds. That's about what, just over 3/4 of a tank here. And 80% of the tank is what is available to them. So that suggests that Campbell was almost out of fuel, but I'd be surprised if 80% doesn't get you to 45 minutes. And that's a somewhat of a concern because 4 lots of 45 makes 3 hours. If it's less than that, you could end up making an extra 4th pit stop in the race.
Yeah, I think when we get to, I would probably say, when we get to that third round of pit stops, we're going to know pretty much straight away. I'm just wondering if Rodney Campbell did not completely use up the 80% of fuel that was available in that tank. If he's come through on fumes, as we're going to see picture in picture, there's Lisa Eskridge still behind the wheel of the last. Oh, and she's got big time off. That's out of the final corner. Yeah, like I was saying, with the GT3s, I'm wondering how much fuel Rodney Campbell used. I mean, because if he managed to save about 5 to 7% of fuel in that tank, could that make the difference of maybe being able to go a little bit longer? So, you know, shorten the first stint, but extend, if you can, the middle part of this race. And that could be quite crucial for the Matrix Silver team, as Robbie Prescott from Solpec is now in, which means Chris Pies from Imperial Motorsport is in the lead. Now we're going to see what this is going to dictate for GT3s.
Yeah, and whether that extra lap will mean anything for Chris Pies here, because that has put him over the 45-minute window, whereas Prescott and all the others haven't been able to get there. Matt Siddle so far the only one able to continue on past 45 minutes here, as Prescott gets up towards that 33 seconds. It's 34 in fact. Careful, careful, whoa, that was close. I wasn't quite sure that he'd seen that car coming down pit lane there with him. Looked like David Langston, who was coming out the pit lane at the same time there. And obviously, when you're down to the left-hand side of that white line, as we see it here, into those boxes on the left-hand side as we're looking at it, you can drive through one another, but you can't when you're to the right-hand side as we look at it, of those. And I was a little bit concerned there for a moment, but there we go. Sazzy Zuhair also gets into the lane as Peter Trimmer gets on his way again. Robbie Prescott, though, back out in third. And we'll see what this extra lap does for Chris Pies. Will it even allow him to get in front with a lower fuel run on this in-lap here?
I'm going to be really interested to see what's going to happen, because obviously Matrix Black's Matt Siddle is currently running 23.6 seconds behind Chris Pies in the GT3 division. So I'm wondering, with all that time that he was stationary, what's that going to mean for him? Is he going to dive in at the same time as Chris Pies? But you've got to consider this. Looking at the pit stop times, we're looking at 1 minute 3s, 1 minute 4s, 1 minute 5s. So as now, Chris Pies is in the pit lane, and that means that I'm wondering how long Matt Siddle's going to do.
Yes, let's see. As he makes that decision as well, it might not be much of a choice as he comes down pit lane as well. So Robbie Prescott will soon be in contention to come back through again and retake this race lead. But will he do that with that extra lap run by Chris Pies on that lower fuel, whereas Prescott's been getting up to speed on colder tyres and a heavy fuel load in the last lap? Out of the final turn he comes now on the run up towards the start-finish line. The stop time for Pies is going to be 33.9, just 1/10 of a second quicker than what we saw from Robbie Prescott. That's not much of the difference. It's in terms of the lap times that will be the difference here. Pies releases the limiter already. He's on the inside line and he's through. He's on the cold tyres, don't forget though. So Prescott's going to just try and turn straight underneath him here towards turn 3. Pies understands this situation and he's going to defend. Prescott goes to the outside. There was space on the inside if he wanted to be bold and get down the inside there, but he didn't want to here. Here he comes coming out on the exit now as they get onto the long straight towards turn 5. Does Prescott want to have a stint of fuel saving in behind Prescott and Pies, and stay behind him? Doesn't look like it for the moment, although it did for a short while. Here he comes down the inside. He's late on the brakes and he should well get this position back. He's got a little bit deep, but it should give him the lead over Pies. Not fully confirmed yet. Pies still down there. Whoa, that was close. Prescott had some faith there in Pies that he wouldn't still have his nose alongside, and he does retain this race lead just about.
Shout out to Chris Pies. I mean, the way that he exited pit lane right in front of Robbie Prescott. And one of the things that I noticed quite convincingly there from the Imperial Motorsports car was the way that Pies did not go over aggressive on the defence. He just positioned the car quite nicely there, Ewan. He wasn't sort of sudden and instantly reactive, and that could have probably caused a problem for not just him, but for Robbie Prescott, who's right on his diffuser. But again, Prescott knew that he had to make that move and was very, it wasn't kind, I wouldn't say the word telegraphed, it was kind of the fact it was an eventuality that he thought, right, okay, I've got the run down the marine sweep. If I can get him on the inside of turn 5, that is pretty much going to be 50 to 75% of that move being completed. And then by turn 6, before they went into the hurry downs, he got the job done.
Changes in the 963s through the pit stop phase, by the way, for Will Wolf, who went on for 1 lap shorter in his stint. Look at the gap that he's got over James Huth here of more than 5 seconds. So the reverse has been true for the 963s, whereas in GT3 it was the long run that has worked out. It's actually a bit of an undercut from Will Wolf here that's got him a lead. And I mean, that's an extraordinary gap, isn't it? 6.5 seconds here, surely to grow with these guys needing to warm up their tyres still. This is going to be a very, very big gap, I would say, when all is said and done, and that might be difficult for the others to close on Will Wolf here at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big strategy coup there as well, because that's going to give them a real advantage and give them that little bit of breathing space when it comes to the next, the next set of pit stops, Ewan. And when you've got, like, say, a 6.5 second advantage, when exiting out of pit lane, Johan Nye and Lisa Eskridge are the only 2 cars in the field, I believe, that still owe us a pit stop, and they are now over 50 minutes in to this race. Yes,
that is indeed the case. They've been running a little bit slower than the others in any case, so that's sort of why they've been able to go a bit further. They've been able to avoid having made a pit stop so far in this race. So it's going to be important for these guys to get up to speed pretty quickly here, because Will Wolf has made a brilliant call through strategy here, and it really has worked out, it looks like. This outlap not going quite so well for David Boyer, who's new into this car. And that might be one of the reasons why he's getting off to a slow start here. He's just getting accustomed to everything again. It's 2.5 seconds behind James Huth at the moment in second. And Huth in turn 7.5 behind Wolf. The gap at the front of the GT3s is now 2 seconds as well for Prescott over Pies. So I really thought Chris Pies was able to stay closer there because he was ahead of Prescott for a little while. But really, the gap has returned to where it was before, and even actually maybe a bit bigger than what it was before the stops there for Chris Pies.
Yeah, looking at the previous lap, it was a 2-minute 5.616. And, well, let's just put this into perspective, you. Gap between Prescott and Pies is now just over 2 seconds. Gap on the previous lap, 5.5 tenths. Well, 4.5 tenths, sorry.
Still.
That's a great thing. Yeah, just try and work out maths on the fly, Alex. Yeah, get it wrong by a tenth. Whoops. But still, nevertheless, 4.5 tenths around here at this circuit. That's not to be sniffed at in these GT3 cars. So Prescott really starting to stretch that lead, and we're getting closer and closer to where we were when Prescott, within the first 20 minutes, had the race lead, started from pole. Pies tried to get through on him going into turns 1 to 3 on the opening lap before we had that drama with Zuhair and Siddle, and then Campbell just went for it. He just thought, yeah, I've just got to get away from him. I've just got to try and maximise that window of opportunity. But then, as we see the different driving styles between the two, Prescott is going to go absolutely flying out of the gate. The Steve Comats for Missile Motors in the 210 now rumbles down pit lane. It seems like we have two sides of the same coin. Campbell's one of these people that wants to go and get that advantage, whereas Pies' pace and consistency gets him closer to the opposition as that stint goes on, as the tyres degrade, as the fuel level lightens. So it seems like Pies has got the better consistency on those low fuel runs.
Yeah, I wonder whether that will start to work against him, though, as this race goes on, because I think this race is going to require less of that the older it gets, because these temperatures are only going to decrease. I mentioned we're still at 121 degrees Fahrenheit as we approach 3 p.m. in sim now. We're on a 2 times multiplier, by the way. It started at 1 p.m. in sim, so we're now at 3 after the first hour. These temperatures are only going to dip from here, and indeed it's going to get a little bit dusky towards the end at 7 p.m. Indeed. So I would say that less care of the tyres needs to be taken, really, as the race goes on, as the race gets a little bit older. I mean, maybe he'll be out front by then, but I just feel like the constraints on the others are really helping him at the moment, because he's doing such a good job of managing the tyres. Feels to me like that might go away, especially with these shorter stints than what they otherwise would normally be. They're only 45-minute stints here, don't forget, whereas GT3 drivers are normally used to doing hour-long stints on each set of tyres. And indeed, in our regular series at the Porsche Club of America, it's hour-long races that these guys are used to managing the tyres through.
Yeah, I think as the temperatures go down on the track, like you rightly say, Ewan, it will be less about tyre conservation and just about just going for it a little bit, you know, throwing a little bit more caution to the wind. And especially when we get to 5 o'clock in sim time, which we will do in just under 65 minutes, that'll be quite crucial on who's going to be quicker when the tyres are piping hot, as well as the brakes, but that track is that little bit cooler, just to allow some maybe to go that extra half a tenth, tenth and a half maybe, on a particular sector that they really feel comfortable in, and that can make all the difference in a 3-hour enduro.
Yeah, it certainly can. It feels like in the modern era of sports car racing that 3 hours is not particularly it's an extended sprint maybe rather than an endurance at 3 hours, but it is still a long time. It's a big test for these teams in this race. Glad to say that all 21 who started are still in the race here this afternoon. A slightly long stop for David Langston 4 laps ago, his only stop of the day. Might have been speeding or something, but no, it's not quite right. So I don't know what the long stop was about there. Maybe it was just as simple as a bit of damage repair, but everybody's still in the race, thankfully, so far. As he's lapped by one of the last 10th 963s, and he's trying to stay out of the way of some of the other GT3s. And look at this, one of the Imperial Motorsports 963 trying to get through here at the same time. A very, very busy part of the racetrack. Langston almost not sure where to go there as he was moving around. See Kynarm Racing really able to close on James Huth there, because that wasn't the best moment to come across those two Porsches there for James Huth. And yeah, look at this now. Huth having to get past Lisa Eskridge. Now Ken Eskridge actually, who's driving the last 10th of the car. And David Boyer is really closing as a result, starting to find his feet in his first stint in the car as well, David Boyer.
Yeah, that's reflected of the lap time, obviously, with James Huth having to fight his way through traffic. That's cost him pretty much the best part of 0.7 of a second. So, yeah, I think it's just when, you know, David Boy is now on his 5th lap in this stint, so the tyres and the brakes should be up to temps, so the car will be in his hands. A little bit more compliant, but then it's a case of how he makes the best use of it. And that's going to be quite a, you know, when you've got someone of the caliber of James Huth in front of you, yeah, you want to try and chase him down. But we know with James Huth, he's going to try and squeeze every single, you know, 10th or so out of that vehicle just to keep an advantage. But, I mean, the strategy that the last 10th Foundry, I think, has befuddled both of us. I mean, Will Wolf is now 8.2 seconds up the road leading the way.
Yeah, how he's quite managed a gap like that, I'm not really sure at the moment. But there you are. It's 8.5 seconds, but there's still two and a bit hours to go, 2 hours 1 minute still to go in this race. So plenty of time for those behind to close in on some of these gaps here. Behind in GT3, there are no battles closer than this one really between James Huth and David Boyer. This is the closest on the racetrack. This is a replay of Leon Snyman going straight on at the final corner. And I guess you could say that it's pretty amazing, for one, that we've managed to go nearly an hour without seeing that sort of thing yet, because braking in and getting slowed down for the final corner, very, very difficult indeed, as the track just bends to the right there and invites you towards that gravel trap on the outside.
And considering the fact, Ewan, it's only with that car and also when Lisa Eskridge had her moment. So we've had one from the 963s, one from the GT3s, both go off in a similar vein at the final corner. But we are now just about to turn across to hour number 2. This first hour has actually gone really, really quickly, but we've seen some really, really good close battles. We're now seeing the strategies start to emerge, and still Wolf, for last 10th Foundry, he's doing a mega job in the 0-1-0, and it's just going to be quite impressive on how much longer that lead is going to stay that long.
Yeah, indeed. So with 1 hour officially complete now, let's take you through the field here and see where everybody is in the Porsche North America Team Racing Series this afternoon at Road America. Will Wolf is leading for last 10th Foundry in the 0-1-0. He is 7 and a bit, nearly 8 seconds in front of James Huth in the Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer team. Then it's the Kynarm Racing Blood team, who are in 3rd position overall. Imperial Motorsports, by the way, the only pro in 963. The other two are club. Then it is the Sport Class leader, Backmarker Motorsports. Mike Sachs now driving there, over a lap in front of Johan Nye, who's had a difficult start of the race so far for the 141 team. Then Last Lovebirds, the other of the 963s in the Challenge Class here today, currently 3 laps off of the lead. In GT3, Robbie Prescott is leading the way now by 2.5 seconds in front of Chris Pies at the front of the GT3 field. Rodney Campbell has got past Nicky Chan to the tune of 5 seconds in their fight for 3rd place. Last 10th Racing now on the outside looking in. And Matrix Black with Matt Siddle recovering back to 5th despite getting spun out on the very first corner of the very first lap. The first of the club class teams is the Gombo Racing team. Peter Kuma has been driving there since the start, just in front of Joseph Evers, who's the first of the sport class teams, the Motorsports number 83 team, who are in 7th overall. Then it's Stallions GT3, Chakasian for Adam Curling and Shazi Zuhair round out the top 10. Whiskey Wheels are the first of the challenge class teams in 11th place, in front of Max Noy, who are in 12th place. Ed Trippett now driving there. Leon Snyman, we just saw go off the road there, the final turn is in 13th, in front of Steve Komach, who we've seen in the Wolves for Mittal Motors, and Roadrunner Hurricane rounding out the field, David Langston, after a stop of 1:14, which has very much halted their day just a little bit. Well, that's how we stand after just over an hour of racing. Battles have definitely quietened down, but as you say, it has rather flown by so far this first hour. There's been plenty going on as well, and it feels like one of those races where there's plenty more still to come as well in the remainder of this race, because of the way the strategy is set up and because of the way that some of the guys seem to be a little bit out of position as well compared to where they maybe should be.
Yeah, I think if Matt Siddle hadn't had that turnaround on the opening lap as we saw just over 60 minutes ago, there could be, I think really there would be a very, very big different story in the GT3s. But when it comes to the fact that now Matt Siddle, you know, he's running pretty quick. He's doing low 2-minute 5.9s here, Ewan. And you look at Nicky Chan, high 2:07.9. Same for Rodney Campbell. Same for Chris Pies, and also Robbie Prescott running in the 2:05.5s. So Siddle, out of the top 5, is the 3rd quickest car in the GT3 field on track at the moment. So I think we could be in for some interesting battling, maybe in the 3rd and final hour of this race.
I think so. Certainly for those podium positions, and I'm not sure this battle between Prescott and Pies is done just yet either, but it is on hold for the moment, as they're 2.5 seconds apart. Well, we're just over an hour of this way through the race, and indeed Robbie Prescott is 2.5 seconds out front, just less than 2 hours to go, and half distance only half an hour away. Therefore, the next round of pit stops only half an hour away, and it's maybe a small bit of concern, but remember Prescott did go into the pit lane 1 lap earlier than Chris Pies did, who went longer than most. Only Matt Siddle was able to equal Chris Pies for that. So feels like there's maybe a strategy element there to it as well, because it wasn't like the GT3s were very comfortable getting it to the all-important 45-minute mark as they need to.
Yeah, and when you consider the fact that Rodney Campbell was the first of the GT3 cars to pit for the Matrix Silver number 29, and it kind of, you know, the sort of the thought process that I had, whether he's not completely exhausted the 80% fuel limited tank that the GT3s currently have, and I'm just wondering if that earlier stop, if he's able to go longer. I mean, we're seeing the lap times from him. He's running about well, at his previous lap, he was 2 seconds slower than Chris Pies, and I'm wondering if that may, hypothetically speaking, be a little bit of a difference maker, but that depends on how far that fuel is going to last. You know, is he going to be the first to pit, or is he going to end up doing maybe a lap longer than the leaders and decides, I'm going to make sure I'm the last one to pit behind Messrs Pies and Prescott? It could be interesting to see, because we're going to have to wait and find out.
We certainly will. In the meantime, after an hour and 5 of racing, I'd like to remind you once again that we're delighted to have Princess Cruises on board as our PCA sim racing title sponsor in 2026. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places we visit and the friendliest crew at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles on September 19th to 25th. go to the website link on screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to speak to a PCA travel concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. 2.2 seconds, the latest gap over the line for Chris Pies there. Last time round, he gained about a quarter of a second. He does need to do that about 9 more times if he's going to get to the back of Prescott, if you're going to put the maths in very simple things like that. Obviously, racing doesn't quite work like that, but that just shows, doesn't it, that you can never really let these gaps get out too big, because actually closing them takes an awfully long time, even a 2-second one like this.
Yeah, and just looking at the sector times, Chris Pies has really got it locked down. About 4/10 quicker than than Prescott in the Solpec Precision Racing 919. He was 4/10 of a second quicker, but he loses nearly half of that differential when it goes into the final sector. So again, we're just seeing that as the cars lighten in terms of their fuel load, plus also how the tyres react over time, and also with regards to either increasing or decreasing temperatures. Well, we are decreasing again, so it is back to, we're now 118 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 48 Celsius. So we're not that far away from maybe where the drivers will then be able to, I would probably say from just after maybe halfway, maybe 65% of the way through the race. If we get those temps under maybe say 45 degrees track, Ewan, might have an opportunity to maybe see some faster lap times being pulled out of the magician's hat.
Yeah, well, indeed. First battle we've seen for a little while. This one between Sazay Zuhair and Adam Gerling. It has been a race of recovery a little bit for Zuhair. Had to drive through pit lane earlier on. And indeed, stop for 15 seconds. A stop-go penalty for the incident with Matt Siddle on the opening lap of this race. It cost him about 45 seconds or so, as a drive-through plus 15 does. So he's only just got back into the top 10, has Zuhair. Now is on the back of Adam Gerling for 9th position, and this is part of the sort of recovery, the run through the field for the last 10th team who were previously inside the top 5. And through the kink here, see if we can get a run towards Canada Corner maybe. And there is always a little bit of a chance you can make the overtake. It would be quite a lunge from back here, and Zuhair's going to have to pick somewhere else to make the move. Is this run out of the final corner good enough? He's in the slipstream again on the front straight, and we've seen time and again how you need to be maybe even closer than this going onto the straight to make a move. That's how difficult it's been so far, but it is now less than 2 attempts. The time gap closing with a fastening rate at the moment. He gets to the inside. This is where he had the contact with Siddle, don't forget, on lap number 1, which he's not nervous about, it seems. He dives to the inside of Adam Gerling and moves up with a rather textbook move into 9th place.
Yeah, I think it's like you were saying, Ewan, with regards to Zuhair, not adverse to taking a little bit of risk in his hands. But yeah, I think it's always about having that due diligence, that confidence and self-belief to make that move stick. And again, like Zuhair and Siddle, you know, Siddle having had contact with Zuhair on that opening lap, and Zuhair having to, as you said, serve that penalty. But I think it's also steady progression. And so Zuhair now 9th in the GT3s. And yeah, he's managed to pull away to the tune of about 8.5 tenths from Adam Gerling in the Chroma Motorsports White number 495. So yeah, I think it's just like, you know, sometimes when you're battling for championship position, sometimes you will take that risk at the beginning of a race, but unfortunately Zuhair ended up on the in the corner of the room with the dunce's hat on because of that penalty that was applied after contact with Siddle. But you know, credit to Zuhair that He's just getting on with the business at hand. Sometimes you just have to put those kind of incidents behind you and just look at the here and now rather than behind.
Yeah, indeed. Just looking to push on here and regain these places here. Sajid Zuhair, and obviously we've already seen Matt Siddle put on a good exhibition of that. He's pretty much, you mentioned it earlier, been pretty much the third fastest driver since then. So it's going to be very difficult for him to catch Prescott and Pies from now, but he might be able to rescue a podium here. He's closing on Nicky Chan, the gap 3.5 seconds there. It's 4.5 seconds now for the lead, by the way, between Last 10th Foundry and Imperial Motorsports. That is well under half of what it was previously. James Huth did lose nearly a second last time round, but Will Wolf generally is losing time overall. There's no traffic around them at the moment either right now. This leading gap's come down below 2 seconds for the first time in a while as well. So all of a sudden this race is seeing some of these fights, especially for the primary positions at the front, just starting to close in again as we close in on half race distance.
Yeah, that track temp is really starting to drop a little bit quicker now. But it's just even a degree of track temp can make all the difference. And I'm looking at James Huth's lap time. Well, Will Wolf just hit a low 54.4. James Huth, 54.102. Where Huth is losing out time looks to be the final sector, but he made, and that's half a second that he lost there. He gained 6 tenths in the middle sector of the circuit and about a couple of tenths in the opening sector. They just matched each other in the opening sector this time around. So again, it's that middle sector, like I said, we're seeing with Pies, we're seeing with Huth, where they are finding something where they're able to just, that the car just really grips up and starts really reacting well in terms of the mechanical grip of the car, even with the aerodynamic assistance of the 963. But it's just about chipping away at the advantage that someone has had. And you know, what was it, 15 minutes ago? Will Wolf was what? Double that distance in front. So James Huth has just been on a stint that has just required to him to just go, right, time to go hunting. Time to go and catch the leader and see what we can make of this situation.
I've just caught a message from Chad Henson, by the way. Have you received this as well? 15 minutes ago, Chad Henson just messaged me to mention the gap between them and Will Wolf, and the reason for it. This is the race start, by the way, earlier on when Last 10th Foundry were able to hold on to the lead here. Kind of racing, really challenging Imperial Motorsports actually, just there, but yeah, in the end, Imperial Motorsports able to stay in front. So yeah, basically a small stealth spin through turn 5 accounts for the gap to Will Wolf between those two, and they're working to make the gap back up again. So that explains an awful lot. It was a little bit strange, the gap that we saw when the pit stops had unravelled, and good to find out why that was. I mean, turn 5 on cold tyres. I mean, that's one of the big places on this racetrack.
Yeah, especially if you go deep into the corner and run it out wide. James Huth has got that gap down to 2.7 seconds. He took 6 tenths out of Will Wolf on that previous lap. So this could be rather interesting as we're just under 15 minutes away from half time.
Indeed we are. Siddle in the 16 and very soon pulls out on the front straight to get alongside Nicky Chan. He's surely just going to be let through really by Chan. There's no point in these two fighting at the moment. Siddle is a lot quicker than Chan at the moment, and an hour and 45 is quite a long time to keep somebody behind you for, so Siddle is able to get through. Let's remind ourselves as to how he's found himself so far back here, considering the speed that he's got. That's happened off the start, I'm afraid, for him. He did qualify sort of around 5th position, which didn't help, but there was a little bit of contact between, or spin, sorry, for Sajid Zuhair, which spun him straight into Siddle, which spun Siddle around coming out of turn 1 down towards 2. And it's given them given him the job of recovering ever since. Robbie Prescott was able to take the lead for Salt Pep Precision Racing from the pole position, which he also got. And he's really held that lead over Pies since then, but he's being kept very honest by the Imperial Motorsports driver.
Yeah, and it's gone back under 2 seconds again, Ewan, between Prescott and Pies for the GT3 lead. And now, well, again, another chunk of time has been taken out by James Huth, and it was a 53.5 for the number 13, Will Wolf. High 53.98. So yeah, that's over 4.5 tenths. So Will Wolf has just got to be, you know, just keep it nice and calm. Just worry about what he needs to concentrate on. Keep those racing blinkers on, but he does not want to have a wobble like that.
No, indeed.
That scared
pressure. Yeah. Pressure will be on both of these two at the moment. So far, the mistakes and so on of the first hour and 20 have given us this situation. Imperial Motorsports are chasing. They're making up time, but successfully. They are making up time to Will Wolf at the moment. James Huth putting those laps in last time round. 4/10 of a second gain, just over. So this is really closing. I'm not sure. Well, it might come back before the pit stops, to be fair, but we'll see whether he actually wants to make a move before then, because especially later on in the stint, this has really gone the way of Imperial Motorsports. And then again through that bit of traffic there, really slowed Wolf down. Yes, it'll slow Huth through the final corner. The gap's less than a second and a half now for the first time in a while.
And when you consider it, well, Imperial Motorsports are in contention for both GTP, well, 963 and GT3 top honours. So, you know, when you think about it, Chris Pye is doing a really good job. He's got the gap down. It's 1 second between Will Wolf and James Huth, and between Robbie Prescott for Salt Pep Precision Racing and the 919 GT3. He is 1.4 seconds ahead of Chris Pies, who's just taken nearly a tenth out of him in the opening sector. So as we're 11 minutes away from the halfway point, we've got a picture-in-picture David Boyer. Oh, this is going to be off. Turn 5. Happen again. Not being the easiest place to get on the brakes and turn it left through after the moraine sweep down the hill from turns 3 and 4.
Just, you know, just as there was a front two potentially going to start fighting where he could gain some time, suddenly the time that needs to be gained gets a whole lot more for David Boyer. But the fight for the lead in the GTP 963 class is pretty much upon us. The one in GT3 is coming as well. 1.2 seconds, as we just caught a glimpse of in the last couple of moments. Wolf now stuck behind a GT3 around the carousel. Huth will be able to get it before the kink. Not quite. They'll stay apart there. It's really got in the way of them equally there in the GT3, as is so often the case with multi-class traffic. Will Wolf with a little bit of breathing space this time round. He's now got pretty much the same gap as Robbie Prescott has got in the GT3 class. Yeah, it's like that inevitable crescendo that you're just waiting to be upon us. And the way that both Will Wolf and Robbie Campbell have just steadily got on with the business at hand. Just keep that lead in their hands, and well, if you've got to battle for it, then it's time to get your elbows out. Make the car's back end as wide as humanly possible, but not by being over exuberant. You need to be calm, you need to be cool and calculated to make those decisions when they are required at the necessitated time. And that's going to be crucial for both teams, because if either Campbell or Wolf falter, then it's going to be the Imperial Motorsports pair of Huth and Pies that will take full advantage given an opportunity that might be slender, but for them it's the lifeline for the race lead. There's high pressure at this point, high stakes with getting towards the halfway stage. Will Wolf will be feeling the most pressure of anybody, having been slowly reeled in here by James Huth over the course of the last 40 minutes or so, half an hour actually, since these 963s came out of the pit lane. They are coming up towards it. Well, at least Wolf is coming towards the end of 18 laps on this stint. He managed to do 25 first time round, so still 7 to go. Takes you another 15 minutes or so, takes him to about an hour and 20 to go. There's going to be some slightly shorter pit stops later on in the day. I want to try and balance those out so that you can not lose any time. You can take tyres at all 3 of your pit stop, but don't lose any time doing so. Might see a bit of short filling from one or both of these at these next pit stops as the equation becomes clearer for them at this stage. Out of the final turn and up towards the line, hour 38 to go, and the pressure is mounting on Wolf here. It would be a real statement for James Hoof to make a pass here in the next 7 laps or so before Wolf is able to come into the pit lane. I think not necessarily race defining if he were to make, it's not urgent that he needs to make the pass, but it would be a big statement.
Yeah, completely agree with you, Ewan. And also with regards to the short fueling, you need to, you can minimize, if you can minimize your fuel window, because obviously, as you said, as per the regulations we run here at PCA, the Team Racing Series, it is the case of, if you are going to short fuel, you've got to make sure it's at your best possible moment. Here we are, the 05 of Peter Covert completely going to, he's gone completely to a stop. He's had a problem there. That is either software or hardware related. The car is stuck in 4th gear. He's trying to move the steering wheel. That is not where you want to be stuck out on track. And that is I think, that was, I'm not too sure where that was at, but actually, I think it was underneath the Sargento Cheese Bridge.
No, it's
and he's stuck.
There. No, it's after the carousel, just under that bridge. It looked weird though. It wasn't a wheel total failure because he was moving the steering around. Maybe his gears had failed, but that wouldn't require him to stop directly in the middle of the road.
I think it's more throttle related. It might be a pedal issue because that car was in 4th gear, and I think it's probably a pedal issue of some description. So they've towed the car to pit lane. Chris Sherburn's getting behind the wheel now. But that was, I thought Peter Kummer was, slowing to keep out of the way of, one GTP to the right, one GTP to the left. But I thought, okay, he would have started accelerating again. So I think it might be, it's either a hardware disconnect, not a server disconnect, so to speak, in terms of what's happened.
Yeah, he didn't lose connection to the server. The way he stopped initially looked to me like his monitor had turned off and he couldn't see where he was going. But then how he was reacting afterwards didn't really make sense. So I don't know. I've asked him, by the way. Hopefully we'll get an answer. Hopefully he knows. Maybe he doesn't know what's going on there either, which would be even worse. But let's wait and see on that one. The 05 has indeed got a black flag next to its name now, actually, as well, which is not very helpful. So that is a potentially drive-through, potentially worse. But Chris Sherburn, after the towing there and after the driver change and a normal pit stop for them for Gone Broke Racing, Chris Sherburn has now got behind the wheel of that car. Gone Broke Racing are second in the GT3R Club class, which is by far the most interesting of the classes this season so far. Their closest rivals, R-Speed, are not here today. R-Speed Black, the other team who've been at all the races so far, are the Missile Motors team, who in this race are running in 14th, second last. So both of those in the top 3 of the Club Class Championship have had pretty difficult afternoons so far.
Yeah, they'll probably be breathing a collective sigh of relief when it's all said and done. Just think, okay, we got that one out of the way. A bit of a toughie, but let's roll on to the next round. And of course, yes, it will be the big grand finale on the 20th of September. So that'll be Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. So yeah, still plenty of time to go here, Ewan. Still half the race left remaining here at America's National Park of Speed.
Just about, yeah, just over 90 minutes to go. And the 4th round of the season. We of course have the finale live on the 20th of September at Road Atlanta later on this year. By the way, And of course, we'll have the new series, season 14, season 16, sorry, of the championship, the regular championship on Wednesdays and Thursday nights coming up as well. So that starts at the end of August, right here at Road America. We'll be back to in just over a month's time. There is the race leader. And I think Will Wolf has responded well actually to this, because he's really been closed by James Hoof in this stint here, especially the last half an hour or so. And you could crumble under that sort of pressure when there's somebody bearing down on you like that. But he hasn't. He's really held his own here nicely.
Yeah, I think it's like I said earlier on, Ewan. You know, Will Wolf is just concentrating on the task at hand, which is retain that lead and just stick to what stick to what you're doing. There's a game plan in place, and sometimes you just have to look at it from the grander scheme of things. There's still plenty of time to go in the race, but you want to make sure that you cross every T, dot every I, leave no stone unturned. And yeah, well, like you say, Will Wolf, chapeau. He's done a great job. Hoof is just trying to close him down, and the gap has expanded again because Will Wolf has responded in the middle sector. And he's gone quite a bit faster, over half a second quicker. That gap's now gone back up to 1.2.
Yeah, looking very good for Wolf there. He's responded very nicely indeed. So we go back to a battle for 7th place in the GT3 category. Chad Casion just in front of Sazet Zuhair. Zuhair's that pro driver we mentioned earlier on, who had that penalty, dropping in 45 seconds to pass one of these club class cars, the 550. This is the club class leader now, by the way, behind the sport class leader. Joseph Evers shows what a great race he is having. This is another overtake though for Zuhair, which there have been many of for him in the last few moments. Have to wait for this 963 probably to go past him before he can actually make this pass. Too far back in the slipstream there actually. One of these frustrating overtakes this could be, maybe, where he knows he's quicker than the driver in front. He just can't seem to do it quite yet.
Yeah, I think it's might have to wait maybe, well, he might not have to wait that much longer, considering how close he is. So, yeah, Chad Cason's got to be, he's got Zuhair right in his mirrors. This could be the moment, but the last 10th, 016 might get the chance to get through. Door might be opening here.
He wasn't initially there at all, but he just about had his nose there sort of late in the turn. And in the end, he sort of half backs out of it, half not. Here comes Robbie Prescott, meantime, into the pit lane after 20 laps of a stint this time round. And again, it's just before the 45-minute mark, allowing Chris Pies to go on for one more lap. Will that allow Chris Pies in the lead, like what we saw on the previous rejoin?
Could be the case here, but we'll have to wait and see.
He will change driver as well to David Mendonca, who is a supremely quick driver. The reigning champion, indeed, of the regular sim racing series here through season 15, sorry. Mendonca took the victory. Here comes Zuhair though. Meantime, down the inside into Canada corner. Can't say that move hadn't been coming. And finally, he's got it done in towards Canada corner. So took a little bit longer than he'd hoped for, but he's got it done now.
Yeah, that could make all the difference here, but who knows? Still a long way to go, Ewan, but a lot of pit stops now happening. Everyone's starting to dive in. Patterson, Chan, Ed Trippett for Marchnel Sway in the 420. They've also come into pit lane, so second round of pit stops for GT3s underway.
Yep, they are. You see them all making the slow run down this very long pit lane into their pit box, just as some others make their way out. That's Rodney Campbell, who's changed over for Mike Patterson. In fact, for the Matrix Silver team now, heading back out again. So driver changes all round. There's the full look at the drivers who are currently in. I wonder if Chris Pies is going to be changing over for somebody else in the Imperial Motorsports camp. You've got to make sure you get this driver change right in GT3 because the normal stop's 34 seconds. A driver change is 30, so you've got to make sure that you get out the car sharpish, otherwise the driver change itself will actually cost you more time than fueling one of these cars up to 80% will be.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're at this point, Ewan, where we're going to see it's, yeah, a lot quicker, 31s, 32s, 33s, so by about 9 to 10 seconds we're seeing a differential, so that means less fuel is going in the car.
Just a little bit, yeah, if you can afford it, just a little bit. If you've gone, especially those couple of extra laps like the likes of Pies and Siddle, we're certainly going to see some time chopped off by them in these later pit stops as Chris Pies makes his way towards the end of another lap here in the next few moments, and indeed will be in the pit lane when that happens. Will Wolf versus James Huth meantime for the race lead overall. And speaking of the 963s, actually there's been trouble for the 141 here, I believe, through the kink. So not too far away from, sorry, a bit later than that in the lap, but Johan Nye has got a meatball flag, the first of the day in the 963s.
Oh, and that's what you don't really need at this point in the race, but well, James Huth right on the bumper of Will Wolf. Here we go, race lead, 1 hour 27 minutes. This is going to be dicey, but look at this, James Huth is right on the back of Will Wolf as they go through Bill Mitchell Bend up the hill through towards turn 14. And can Huth get the run this time around and go for the overall race lead?
And there's Nye, who's limping slowly to the pit lane and into the pit lane for Will Wolf this time round. He can't go on any further. He's done 23 laps of a stint this time round. Don't forget, he came in 1 lap earlier than Huth last time round as well. So it's no surprise that the thing has stayed the same. Johan Nye getting down. Is this of Mendonca? Yeah, it is, but he's hit the wall. He hasn't interrupted the GT3 leader, who's managed to get past him without any further trouble. That's a relief. As meantime his big rival Chris Pies comes into the pit lane, as well as Will Wolf in the pit lane in the 963s.
Well, I was hoping that we were going to see an on-track manoeuvre by James Huth to get through on Will Wolf, and well, they are definitely not hanging about. That's one of the things that's I've been quite impressed with you, and just the rate of consistency that we've seen from the likes of Huth, as Will Wolf now hands over to Rob Neville for the second half of the race in the last 10th Foundry car that has led pretty much every single lap so far until this point. But I would imagine, well, James Huth will maybe more than likely be in this time around.
Yeah, I would say so, unless he's been consistently able to go longer each stint than his rival, in which case there could be a real advantage for that later on in the day. Well, Matt Quinn is now the new driver in the Imperial Motorsports car, and he's comfortably ahead of Mendonca at the beginning of this stint this time, but I think he'll need to beat. David Mendonca is perhaps the fastest driver in this field, and Chris Pies has given Matt Quinn his best possible chance, but with 1 hour and 25 to go, it's going to be hard for Quinn to keep Mendonca behind for all that time. It's already less than 2 seconds. Over the course of this lap, Mendonca is going to be, I think, by the end of it, right on the back of Matt Quinn here.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very crucial. And in some respects, how things might unfold now, it could be a very different story here to what we've had over the last, well, over the first half of the race. But yeah, I'm going to be quite interested to see how it does work out, because you never know what might be upon us here, Ewan, because when I'm looking at the track temp, we've dropped significantly, 43 degrees centigrade. So we dropped nearly 10 degrees since the beginning of the race, 1 hour and 35 minutes, 1 hour and 36 minutes ago. So track temps are going to be so much more kinder to those tyres, which means the drivers are going to be able to push.
Yeah, and Mendonca is absolutely pushing the race leader of Matt Quinn right now through the kink. He's almost crashing into him. He's so quick. goodness me, through the kink there, he almost didn't know what to do with himself. He has to move left and right to try and avoid. Now he's going to have a look into Canada corner. He looks to the inside, he's later on the brakes. Quinn just lets him go. As long as Mendonca slows it down in time, he's got this race lead, and it's comfortable for the Saltpepper Precision Racing driver. Now for Matt Quinn, the incredibly difficult task of trying to stay with the reigning Series 15 champion.
Yeah, and of course with the Zone Group Championship we had a few weeks ago, Mendonca was pretty quick in that as well, so I was not at all surprised when he jumped into the car. And we could see a very, very exciting 1 hour and 23 minutes on the counter, especially when we get to the last set of pit stops here, Ewan, as well. That's going to be quite crucial.
Yeah, especially considering the advantage that Imperial have continued to hold through these pit stops throughout the day so far. There's one last set of pit stops in this round, by the way, that we've got to keep a look on, and it's James Huth in the Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer team. Now, Rob Neville's been out there warming the tyres up for Last 10th Foundry, of course, and getting up to speed, but these older tyres, but crucially warm tyres for Huth, and the lower fuel load, the lighter fuel load, might just have helped the 13 potentially into a race lead here.
Yeah, that could make the difference, but it's just dependent on how quickly up to speed Rob Neville is. He's just done a mid 33.4 in the opening sector, so the tyres are coming to him, but it's going to be about that all-important pit stop now as Chad Henson takes over from James Huth for the second half of the race.
He's got a big job on his hands here, has Chad Henson. The pit stop driver change a little bit more lenient in the 963. You don't have quite as much of a rush to get out as you do in the GT3s, where there really is a time limit for you to get yourself going. Now, 40.9, and he's on his way here, Henson. But look at the gap. 5 seconds. There is the car in the background. Can Rob Neville close in on here, given the warm tyres that he's got? Mendonca, was able to close on Quinn to the tune of 3 seconds.
Here, how are the strategies going to play out between the respective teams? And now we've got a true fight on our hands with Rob Neville closing in on Chad Henson. Backmarker Motorsports Mike Sachs has come into the pit lane after 24 laps. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. This should be a belter.
It should be. This race has had twists and turns in it already, especially in the 963s, but right throughout the field, truthfully. Rob Neville is just closing this gap now down to just a second here, less than a second. There's lap traffic for Henson up in front as well. Coming through the kink, he's just having to wait a moment, and in the end it doesn't interrupt him too much. It might interrupt Neville a bit more coming into Canada corner. Well, he's on the inside. By the end of this lap, Henson should be pretty much up to temperature and up to speed here. But by that point, will Neville be putting the pressure on him to get this race lead back again? Will he be able to make one of these moves into turn 1 or 5? He's still not quite there yet, Henson, in terms of speed. And don't forget, there's 2 laps of a difference between them this time. So Neville is absolutely fully up to temperature before Henson even gets out of the pit lane. And that's creating the situation we're seeing right now between these guys. Neville and the Slipstream looking for the race lead here. He's already the club class leader. What about the overall lead of this race? He looks to the inside. He can't get it done, but Henson still under big pressure. Oh no, Neville's gone. He saw the gap on the inside line open up for him, and he's gone. He's trying to get the power too early. He's spun into the wall, and there go Last 10th Foundry's chances surely of winning this race this afternoon.
Yeah, what a shame. I mean, that was, and he's got a mechanical. He's going to bring that. He's going to have to bring that thing in. Front end took a wallop. But my goodness, he gave it a good try there. You have to give credit to Rob Neville for that. But as you said, Last 10th Foundry, this is going to hurt them big time. That car is going to come into pit lane. And, well, that is a race deciding moment right there, Ewan.
It certainly is. That is a huge moment. Neville spins into the wall. And it's not only changed the course of the overall win, by the way, but it's also changed the course of the club class win, which would be in the hands, therefore, of Kainan Racing, who've won all 3 races so far in the club class, ahead of Last 10th Foundry. That was looking to change here today. Well, not any longer with that spin for Rob Neville. What a shame that is for them. And what a shame it is for us, I guess, to miss out on that leading battle as well. Let's just go on board with Chad Henson here for just a moment here, the Imperial Motorsport Proto Flyer team, as he continues to lead here and now stretches out this lead at the front of the Porsche Club of America Team Racing Series Round 4 here from Road America. Well, that is the onboard with Chad Henson, our new race leader in the Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer number 13. What a dramatic last couple of moments we have had through the pit stop phase, the most recent one. Last 10th Foundry again found themselves chasing and having to try and get back past the number 13 as they have pitted earlier for the second time in a row. But a mistake from Rob Neville coming out of turn number 1 has put them in the wall and has given Imperial Motorsports a near 30-second advantage over the rest of the field. It's Pasaki and O'Leary, Alex Goldschmidt in commentary with you here this afternoon as we join you again. Rob Neville has gone off the road again in Canada Corner. It seems, Alex, that one mistake has snowballed into a second here at the beginning of his stint. This is a nightmare start for him.
Yeah, it's a real shame for Rob Neville. Unfortunately for him, lightning has struck twice, but unfortunately at 2 respective parts of the circuit. Turn 12, Canada Corner, and also at turn 1 just a few moments ago. And here's the replay. And just understeers straight off. So again, it just, all that work we saw in the opening couple of stints with Will Wolfe. It just goes to show how heartbreaking it can be. So that's not what a certain vehicle wanted to do just then. I think that was I'm trying to remember who that was, which livery. So many cars to try and keep an eye on, to be honest with you. But it's one of the GT3s, Ed Trippett. Yeah. So. That is through turn 13, I believe. Bill Mitchell Bend decides to start mowing the grass, but well recovered by Ed on that particular occasion in the 420 Machinella 2 car. So both Machinella Motorsport cars in GTP and GT3 have unfortunately had their fair share of foibles.
Yeah, indeed. It's the middle part of the race, isn't it, where mistakes can really come in quite frequently. Now, battle for third place has been going on just while we were away. This was really emerging, and it has continued that way here. The Matrix Black car has now got into third. Jim Walsh, though, is now the driver, no longer Matthew Sillo. And as they get up to a slow-moving 963 there, the Matrix Silver team, Mike Patterson now driving that car, able to get up to speed here and sort of stay with them here in the early goings of this battle here. So it's a fight for third between teammates, and considering they've got 45 seconds to catch up to the top 2, i.e. they're probably not going to get there, or 25 seconds out behind them, which would require something dramatic for them to be caught. Even though they're teammates, they might well have a bit of a fight here, considering the gaps they've got in front and behind them.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say this. I do love the Matrix Black livery here, Ewan. I really do. It's got that retro feel about it, back in the old 70s in Formula 1. Yes,
indeed. I hadn't put that 2 and 2 together, actually, but you're right, it does very much have that look about it. And that Porsche, pretty stealthy in the dark, I can imagine as well. It was only really a feature at Daytona when we raced into the night. We finished in sim time just after midnight on the first round of the season. See, it never really gets that dark at Daytona, as we know, but it will have done at Sebring as well in March, finishing just after 10 p.m. in sim time. Here we're going to be finishing just after 7 p.m. in sim time. We've got 2 times multiplier, and as you mentioned just before the break, the track temperature really is coming down here. 105 Fahrenheit now, 41 degrees Celsius. That's what's that, about 9 degrees Celsius below what it was at the beginning of this race. So tyre management, while still definitely a thing at 41, is becoming less of a thing.
Yeah, and it's only going to decrease ever further. I mean, so that's, in terms of the highest temp we've had 51 degrees centigrade, and now we're exactly 10 lower. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how much track temp we actually lose in what is remaining, an hour and 9 minutes. It depends on how much further that track temp sinks towards 30 degrees. So that could be a bit of a lifeline. And I said this, I think, before we went to the onboard with the number 13 car, that the lower these track temps get, the easier it is to push on these tyres when they are at that optimum temperature window. And then you're going to see the big differences between those drivers that will really extract the maximum amount of performance without putting the tyres under big amounts of duress. And it's in that final sprint to the checkered, that's where we're probably going to see it be more paramount and more. Oh, so we've had someone go off. That's one of the 963s. So that's the Max 5-1 car, and that was
That was not all settled coming into Bill Mitchell Ben there at all. That car was still absolutely all over the place, and it was, who is driving that one now? Dave Douglas is that who's driving that one now. Got wide into Canada corner, brought all the gravel onto the racetrack, and obviously gravel on the tyres, very warm tyre. Yeah, that was having trouble on the brakes there first of all, getting it all locked up, and that big bump, and then just getting towards the next turn, just a bit overzealous, trying to get back going again, and spun again coming into the penultimate corner there. Yeah, there you go. That car, which is already down in last and is 10 laps off of the lead, having a bit more trouble there, and that was heads-up driving from both the Matrix cars there to actually avoid the spinning prototype in front of them.
Well, considering there was a very, very big dust cloud that they had to navigate their way through, so effectively both Patterson and Walsh were nigh on driving blind through that complex up the hill through at Bill Mitchell Ben. Whoa. So, Patterson, very late on the brakes there. So Walsh could have nearly had a tap from behind. So that's definitely what Matrix Gold or Matrix Black and Matrix Silver teams do not want to have. They do not want to have contact. But one of the big things that they need to do. Last 10th Lovebirds have just had an off with Elisa Eskridge behind the wheel. That car has now picked up a mechanical black flag. But in the meantime, the biggest thing for Matrix Black, the gap was about 3/4 of a minute. That has now expanded to 58. That is a race-ending incident, I think, there for the last 10th Lovebirds. Big moment, and that's at Canada corner, Bill Mitchell Ben complex, turns 12 and 13. Car a shade of its former self.
Yeah, indeed. We've seen it a couple of times now for the 963s coming through Canada corner there, and on the S's towards Bill Mitchell Bend as well. Getting the power down there. The proximity of the barriers, very, very close indeed between making an error and ending your race there. Let's hope that that's not the end of their day and then get back out there, but it will be a long repair whether they get back out there or not, as we continue to ride on board here with Mike Patterson in behind Jim Walsh in the Matrix Black car, recovering from that issue earlier on to now be up 2 places in 3rd place. Mike Patterson in the Matrix Silver car, this car also up 2 places by the way, and where they qualified in 6th, so both of these 2 cars can boast good runs through the field in the first 2 hours of this race today.
Yeah, and well, there is Max Schnell Heinz right in front, Dave Douglas. He's had a moment in front of them, and just to think, within the last 3 minutes, Matrix Black, Jim Walsh, and Mike Patterson in Matrix Silver, they've caught him up again. So, you know, those 2 moments that Dave Douglas had on the same lap, it's not been an easy one, and also for the Machina 2 sister car in GT3. That's actually not doing too bad. Ed Trippett, I mean, he had a scare a little bit earlier on. He's about 4.5 seconds ahead of Dave Jones in the Whiskey Wheels Grello 981 car that rounds out 11th in the class. But again, it's just endurance racing. There's so much unpredictability, which is what is so interesting, so captivating, that, you know, we've seen the moments, obviously, with the big drama, with, you know, the the last 10th Foundry car with Rob Neville, who's still P3. But after those two big incidents, especially when chasing down Chad Henson, you know, he's now a minute and 12 behind. But the car is still, more importantly, P3 overall. So they're still in a podium finishing position with just over 63 minutes remaining, Ewan. But all I can say is this. With 63 minutes to go, anything's possible.
Yeah, it certainly is. And this is the most congested part of the field, by the way. Back here from 5th on back. 5th place is Dale Green at the moment. Just in front of Tom Bryce, who has taken over from Sazay Zuhair. And Sheldon Zaharchuk is in the number 83 Motorsports car. You see the bright yellow up there. There's another car in there that is a lap down. And that is Jeremy Main, I think. The Roadrunner Hurricane car just getting out the way entirely. But these three fighting hard. And the last 10th, 016, don't forget, as opposed to the 011, had that big penalty to serve earlier when Sazay Zuhair was driving it after the contact made with Matthew Siddle on lap number 1. This has meant they've effectively had to just do a recovery drive, and they are about to complete that in terms of getting back to the top 5, which is where I think they probably would have been anyway if they had not had that penalty that has really defined their race today, sadly.
Yeah, it's something that we don't like to see, where, you know, you get into that middle point of the race, and then it just goes, you know, whatever strategy you've had has been completely thrown under the bridge like water, and you've just got to think, okay, right, what can we salvage? What damage limitation strategy can we employ, and hope that it might bring us back into the contention of what we were competing for in, you know, in the first two since the race, before everything sort of got up. You know, it's like having the rug swept from underneath your feet, Ewan.
Yeah, indeed. So just over an hour to go here at Road America in the Team Racing Series here tonight. Of course, brought to you and sponsored, as all the races in 2026 are, by Princess Cruises here at the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places we visit, and the friendliest crew at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles on September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to speak to a PCA travel concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. And indeed, off the Team Racing Series in 2026, there's just 4 hours to go. 1 hour here today. Still a 3-hour race at Road Atlanta on September 20th. In exactly 2 months from now, almost 2 months and a day. That's where the season will end. On board with Sheldon Zaharchuk. And how amazing to have a sport class team. It's the 3rd division of PCA racing, by the way, in front of any of the club class 2nd division teams. A great effort from the number 83 Motorsports team this afternoon.
Yeah, the Canadians done a really, really stellar job. You know, it's just, I think that's one of the things at a circuit like Road America. You've got to keep your nose clean, and that's exactly what Sheldon's done here, and he hasn't really taken too many big chances. And where we've seen other teams hit trouble, Sheldon's just gone, I'm just going to run my own race. That sometimes is the best positive mentality you can have. Oh, that was a bit close going through the kink. He was right on the rear of Dale Green for last 10th Racing, and he's up the inside. Beautiful move by Zariah Chuck through at Canada Corner. That's another place gained, and he's up to P6 in class, P10 overall in the number 83 Motorsports entry. Great job.
That's a fantastic job for a sport class team to be in the top 10 overall, but 6th place in the GT3 order. What a great drive that is from them. They're unlikely, I think, to catch and pass Tom Bryce here, but you never know with Sheldon Zaharchuk at the moment, because he's looking pretty quick, but that is going to be a big effort. The first of the club class drivers, actually, in case you're wondering where they are, right in the background there, you can see Jeremy Hall and the Stallions GT3 number 550 just starting to close on both of these, so wonder whether he might be able to get past both of these before the finish of this race. Only 15 minutes until the final pit stops of the day, and he is bearing down on them. Last time round he did a 5.8. That was actually faster than anybody apart from David Mendonca in this race so far. So Jeremy Hall is really moving, and I think sadly for the sport class team here, the motorsports team, being ahead of all the club class cars is going to come to an end quite soon, but it's been good while it lasts, while Jeremy Hall really bears down on them quickly at the in the background of these shots. There you can see him coming up in the 550.
Yeah. I mean, Zaharchuk just absolutely has done a stellar job. Now, bearing in mind, look who's next on his list for P5 overall, 1.1 seconds up the road, Tom Bryce in the 016. So Zaharchuk has done a really good job. If he gets, that team gets the top 5 finish, I bet they'll be over the moon with that one.
I suspect so. Into Canada corner for Bryce. He's got more than a second over Zaharchuk, and he's keeping it that way for the moment. Zaharchuk's keeping him honest, but he's a bit away at arm's length right now. Jeremy Hall is now officially within a second of Dale Green for the seventh position in GT3 overall. You see them in the background. They're actually even closer than that now as they come across the... oh no, sorry, Jeremy Hall's just been slowed a little bit. There's a bit of lap traffic coming past there, and there's the 55 meantime. Jim Walsh, who was ahead of Mike Patterson, coming back on the racetrack, presumably spinning on the power out of turn 3, but we'll see a replay in a moment to see how this podium position has changed hands here.
Well, I did say about anything could happen in the next in the final hour of this race. And one of the other things, Ewan, we have officially dropped under 40 degrees track temp, as now we see Sheldon Zaharchuk closing in on the back bumper of Tom Bryce into turn 5 off of the Moraine sweep. And again, look how smooth Zaharchuk is just placing that car. He's showing his nose to Bryce going into turn 6 before they head through into the hurry downs at turns 7 and 8. You just see it. I mean, Zaharchuk is just looking so calm and composed. Here's the replay, and it was a wheel on the grass, then rotation. Mike Patterson had to go quickly left hand down, whereas unfortunately Jim Walsh ended up mowing the grass with his front splitter.
It'd been awkward if they'd hit each other there. Very awkward, but hopefully they get away without doing that, at least at the moment. So Zaharchuk's got a decent run out of the kink here, and I don't think he's close enough into Canada corner, but he's certainly making Bryce think about this. I mean, what a drive this is turning into for the motorsports team right now. The car 83 is meant to be in the 3rd division of this competition, in the sport division. Well, they're fighting for a top 5 overall here, and they're going to pass a pro class car in the top division to get there. He gets a slightly tighter line through the final turn here, and he now gets into the slipstream for the long run down towards turn 1 all over again. But I mean, the fact he's even in this position applying the pressure right now just shows what a fantastic drive Sheldon Zaharchuk's having right now, and such improvement that he's making as well as a driver from the sport class to be running with these guys towards the front of the field.
Yeah, I think it's you might say it might be a tall order. I'd say the words never say never. I mean, the big question here is how high up can the team at Motorsports in the 83 actually go, considering he's right with Tom Bryce right now. Jim Walsh is another 12.5 seconds up the road, and looking at the pace, well, Jim, well, looking, Sheldon Zarachuk's running in the 2:05.9s at the minute, so his consistency is rather good at the moment. You look on the last 2 laps, he was 3.5 cents quicker after lap 57. He was nearly 6 tenths of a second quicker on the lap after that, at lap 58. So I think it might be a tall order. But I think if Motorsports in the 83 with Sheldon Zarachuk, I mean, he's done a mammoth job behind the wheel so far. Who's not to say? Could they get P4? You might say it's a bit of a tall order, but he's going to give it a try.
Yeah, indeed. That last mistake there might just have opened up that opportunity here for anyone in this 4 who's really in this group right now, including also Dale Green and Jeremy Hall, who are also fighting back there. It's just opened the window to a 4th place maybe with the spin there. You just never know what can happen, and there's still nearly an hour of racing to go. Don't forget, here's last 10th Lovebirds 963 of Ken Eskridge, who's making passes for position here, by the way. Such as the difficulty that they've had today. They're, I think, 6 laps down on the 6 laps down on the overall lead. But as are the GT3s, so there he goes, past on the straight and into 9th overall. So Zaharchuk's back out of the top 10 overall, but that's not really what concerns him. In any case, if he did, even if it did, he's got a chance to get straight back into it by passing Tom Bryce here in the next few moments. But he's losing a position overall. They're continuing to apply the pressure to Tom Bryce here, just at that frustrating distance really, where he's not close enough to make an overtake, but he's also close enough so it feels like he's he could be able to, but at the moment he's just far too far back and down towards turn 5. There it is again. Hall now has got through on Dale Green though, so there has been a change for 5th place. I believe it was on the last lap, and Jeremy Hall in the club class lead is also now 7th in the GT3 overall.
Yeah, so 0-1-1 last 10th racing. It's, well, I think we can only put it this way, Ewan, in terms of last 10th racing. So what's happened here, here's the move, and it's a nice and neat overtake, no real fight back given. The Stallions car makes its move through in the 550. So yeah, nice job there by Jeremy Hall. And now look, already he's gapped him by at least 8 to 10 car lengths. So Dale Green is just thinking, okay, right, what can we salvage from this? And for all of the last 10th racing teams, it's not been an easy penultimate round. And they'll be looking at things and going, okay, right, let's just pick this apart piece by piece and look how we can rebound at Road Atlanta on September 20th for the last round of the team racing series.
Just going to acknowledge the joke that Dale Green is making by setting his flag as Greenland. That's very good. Like he owns the place. Anyway. Yeah, get it? Okay, fine.
Yep, I got that one. I know, I had to mute my mic there for a second just to have a little giggle like a schoolboy at the back of the classroom. You know, like, which is what the teachers like saying, will you shut up back there? But yeah, well, at least the thing is at least Dale Green's got a good sense of humour. So quite good that we responded on that one.
Yeah, it did. Well, I'm glad I just recognised the joke, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there you are. Anyway. I actually didn't know that you could set it yourself. I thought that it was set for you, but there you are.
It's quite funny. It's quite funny. You mentioned that about flags where, like, you know that someone's from the States and then they put their flag as Antarctica, and I'm like thinking, you're definitely not from Antarctica.
Yes.
You'd be like, hang on, your CPU and GPU might be freezing with those coolant pipes attached to your PC. Or how many heaters have you got in your room, and how much insulation have you got?
Yeah, indeed. But there you are. Anyway, Dale Green from Greenland on his way. Actually, obviously getting past there. Sorry, by Jeremy Hall in that fight. Zaharchuk just losing a second or so now to Tom Bryce as these guys begin to look at the final pit stops of the day and begin to worry about whether they can actually get there. 48 and a half minutes to go. These guys about to hit the end of lap 62. These two, Bryce and Zaharchuk, are about to get to lap 19, the end of lap 19. As there is the 29 of Mike Patterson. That's lap 19 for him, or completed lap 19.
Interesting facts, Ewan. Right, you know I said lap times would come in when we get closer and closer to 35 degrees centigrade. Well, Chad Henson on lap 68 has just posted the fastest lap of the race, I think, 1:53.246. And that car is now singing right about now. So the lap times are coming down, and he's got the Chroma Motorsports white car in front. So I think now this is going to be the final push. Henson is on lap 18. Now, bearing in mind, the GTPs have run to, 23 laps on a stint of fuel. I think probably in the next 7 laps. So you're probably talking in about the next quarter of an hour, that car will be in for its final pit stop. And then we'll really see how much they will short fuel that number 13 Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer.
47 minutes to go as they cross the line this time round. I think any time from next time, and Henson's in the window to make it to the end for the next pit stop. But in the 963s, they're not too concerned about their fuel anyway. It's more in the GT3s where there's a small concern. If this race maybe goes a lap longer than they're expecting, that they might be in a bit of trouble. But we will wait and see on that. Charlie Boyer is still second and leading the club class ahead of Rob Neville, who'll be ruining the mistakes made at the start of the previous stint. They didn't settle maybe for the club class victory rather than fighting for the overall one, because I suppose they won't have any regrets about that, but they will be disappointed with the way the incident actually turned out there in the end and the way that the race subsequently has transpired. A big group of GTs about to head their way towards the start-finish line here, started by Jim Walsh. We'll see whether any of them come in this time round, because this is the last lap for them to stop before the 45-minute mark. Bryce and Zaharchuk are able to go on for one more. Hall and Green are on the same strategy as them, and they come over the hill in the background. They're able to make it as well. So just about these guys have managed to get themselves past the 45-minute mark, and they're now in the clear, I would say, as far as fuel's concerned. For some of the teams, it was a little bit touch and go at times, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, talking of pit stops, you look at the last time the GT3s pitted you, and we were looking at total transfer time. For instance, when Solpec Precision Racing and David Mendonca got behind the wheel, that car total pit lane time, including transfer from pit road in to pit road out, was 1 minute 4.6 total transfer time, 33.7 seconds stationary. And as you rightly said, the GT3s have a maximum allocation or maximum fuel limits of 80%. So I think we could see some pit stops maybe bordering on around about the anywhere between 50 to 55 seconds, maybe at most. But if someone forgets to uncheck a box, that could be a big loser for someone or for a team that has made really good work in the opening 2.25 hours.
Zaharchuk is really having a good end to this stint, by the way, as we ride on board, following the lines, and he's gained a 10.5 on Bryce last lap. I'd say he's probably gained close to 3 tenths this time round, as Patterson comes in from the Matrix Silver team, and he's probably kicking off what's going to be a long run of pit stops now. Actually, Tom Bryce doesn't come in with Zaharchuk here, but the number 83 is coming down pit lane. That's very early onto the brakes. Look at the cone there on the left-hand side there. He's left a bit of time on the table there, but I suppose it is better than speeding coming into the pit lane when, as you can tell there as we're riding on board, you can't really see where the line is until you're right on top of it coming into the pit lane here.
Yeah, massive amount of pit stops happening. Zarachuk, Patterson for Matrix Silver, Jeremy Hall for Stallions, Dale Green for Last 10th Racing. And it's going to be the fact that might be that, well, David Mendonca's coming for Solpec from the lead. Let's just have a look. Well, Mike Patterson, 33.6 stationary. And Motorsports, well, Sheldon Zakharachuk has handed over to Joseph Evers for the last stint for the number 83. That car has had, I think, pretty much a faultless race. 33.8 seconds stationary in pit lane. And Mendonca gets the revs on, gets the revs a little bit high off the air jacks. How quick is this pit stop going to be? The car's still being held for fuel. 28, 29, 31, 33.7. So now it's down to Matt Quinn. Imperial Motorsports currently have the lead in GTP, Ewan. But what can Matt Quinn do? I think the big thing is he's got to really drive that car like he stole it to get that in as quickly as possible. But it depends. Is he going to stay out for one additional lap? Because he's on lap 21. If he's able to stretch that, maybe, I mean, what have we been seeing from the GT3s? 21, 22 laps at a push, maybe?
Yeah, just over 20 laps in terms of what we've been seeing so far. Maybe 22 at an absolute maximum. I'd be surprised if Quinn can really do anything here to even get in front of Solpec briefly. I mean, I know we've seen it time and again when it was Chris Pies driving, when he was against Robbie Prescott earlier. Those two were quite evenly matched, but Mendonca's really extended a big margin and a big lead there. Meantime, more trouble for the 141, which has been in the wall through the final couple of turns there, and has actually got a penalty next to its name, as well as some more damage to repair.
Oh, that says insult to injury to me, but it hasn't been an easy one for Max Schnell-Heinz. But, right, here's the moment. Is Imperial Motorsports going to go on for a lot of the lap? They are. This is quite an interesting tale that's being told here in GT3, Ewan. So, the thing is, I'm looking at how long the Imperial Motorsports 453 was in pit road last time. 33.65. You wonder how much fuel is still left in that fuel tank. Are they going to go that little bit longer? But how much longer is the big question, because, folks, we have no idea how many litres per lap that car has been using since it came out of pit road 21 laps ago. It's going to be show and tell very shortly, as we've got an onboard here with the sister car, Max Schnell. Oh, that's at turn 5, and that clattered in to, I'm wondering who that was. Was that
Jeremy
Patterson?
Hall? It was Jeremy Hall, who had gotten past Dale Green just before all of this, and he was making progress. He was the club class leader. Now, we'll do a proper run through when these final stops have actually been made in the GT3 class, but I wonder whether that hasn't actually changed the leader of the club class in GT3. That Stallions 550 is back in again for Jeremy Hall for the 4th time today, making an extra pit stop. They do have a fast repair in this series, so he'll lose about 35 seconds, but that's still a significant time loss. There's the fast repair. Shouldn't be too long. There we go, 4.1, but he still had to drive through pit lane and do that, and limp around, of course, with a lot of damage.
Yeah, well, that was Ed Trippett behind the wheel, completely losing it, and that was the back end. I'm wondering if he touched the grass heading down into turn 5. We'd really like to get a perspective from, like an aerial shot of how that happened, but it looked like if he's hit the grass, then touch the brakes, that'll rotate the car pretty quickly. because there's no traction at all. We're going to have a slow-mo replay here. There you see it, 2 right side tyres on the grass. That's where the car breaks traction, and he's a passenger now. Is Ed Trippett, and this is going to be a hard hit because you can see here, Jeremy Hall is not, well, he's not, I don't think he's either spotted it or he's hoping that the car clears him, and it's going to go full force, left rear, bang, straight away, smoke billowing from the Mach Schnell 2 car, and then Ed Trippett loses the rear wing after clipping the barriers with the rear bumper.
Wow. A big moment there for the lead in the the club class in GT3 potentially, as Matt Quinn now does come in to make his final pit stop of the day. Already Mendonca's way past. That just shows you the lead that he's got here, which is absolutely massive. Jim Walsh, there's something going on here for Matt Quinn. Oh, sorry, Jim Walsh hasn't topped yet either, of course. So, Quinn's still miles in front of the third place car, but it's just also a long way behind Mendonca, who's leading the GT3 race overall as well. It is nose to tail here, meantime, between Missile Motors and Gone Racing, and despite that issue for Jeremy Hall, these guys still not in front of the club class leader there, the Stannis GT3. This is the battle for second in that class, but they're nowhere near the leader, even despite that big problem for Jeremy Hall there. So panic over as far as the club class lead is concerned. These two still fighting for second. Towards turn 8, Chris Sherburn down 6th place, as you can see from where they qualified, the Gone Racing team at the start of the day, 7th place where they qualified. It's a team who are second in the standings coming into today. With Osprey Black not here though, having taken the maximum 385 from both the previous 2 rounds at Sebring and Watkins Glen. These guys had a real chance to take the championship lead. Well, they're still going to as it stands, but Missile Motors are just in front of them, and there's 20 points on the line here either way. Either Chris Sherburn's able to extend the margin to sort of over 100 points, or Missile Motors could bring it down to sort of 80 odd, 70 odd, so that would make a big difference going into the final round.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's now the mentality of having this train of thought. Okay, we've got through the majority of this race, but now we've got to go all guns blazing. It is now a flat out sprint. If you can gain time on the opposition, now's your chance to do it. Track temp 36 degrees, Ewan, so we're under 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 36 air, so in Celsius 96 Fahrenheit as well. The air temp has pretty much stayed anywhere between 28 to 30 degrees Celsius, so not much change on that front. But this is where we're now going to see, as I said, I mean, Charlie Boyer has just put in a 1:53.886, and that was nearly 7/10 quicker than Chad Henson, who is now on lap 76 out of a predicted 95 with and now we see Charlie Boyer has come in. Last set of pit stops oncoming for GTP. So Canaran Racing Blau in the 93. Charlie Boyer in the club class now makes the final pit stop. But they will still be losing a big amount of time. Chad Henson, I would imagine, is probably going to be next in. But still, Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer, the pairing of Chad Henson and James Huth have done a stellar job so far. Just misfortune for the last 10th Foundry car, pairing Rob Neville having the worst luck you could probably imagine in a second half of a 3-hour enduro.
Yeah, certainly. So, top of your screen, on board still with Joseph Evers, who's gotten back in for Sheldon Zaharchuk. Considering how well Zaharchuk was doing, Joseph Evers has got something to live up to here. trying to get on terms with Tom Bryce and maybe overtake him for 5th position as David Boyer gets himself back out onto the racetrack again. Now he is back down to 3rd for Kynaram Racing, but that's not too much of a concern because Rob Neville still has that other pit stop to make. And so he had that crash as we saw on the opening laps of his stint in this car. Well, that means that he's going to have to stop for a 4th time in a short while, and looks like Kynaram Racing are on their way to a 4th race victory out of 4. A remarkable season from them.
Yeah, and with the efforts of Sheldon Zaraychuk, Joe Evers flying the flag high, bearing in mind it's going to be a possibility in the next 33 minutes. Can he close in once again as Sheldon did earlier on the 016 last 10th car? Just see the commitment. I mean, the way that both Joe Evers and Sheldon Zaraychuk have just been so smooth and consistent. And you just hear that linear acceleration out of Canada corner. Bryce has to get out of the way. That's now stopped. That's now given Evers a run on him. And can this be the case that Evers might get a run coming out of the final corner? Let's keep an eye with him. On board we stay. But this has been a great battle. But Evers and Zaraychuk, I have to say, I think probably for consistency within the race itself and to be into a definite top 5 finish possibility, that's a standout for me today.
Yeah, well, it's been a remarkable drive from both these teams in different ways. Let's see whether Evers can actually make this move in the final half an hour of this race or not. It's not that long that he's got. Well, it feels like it is, but when you actually boil it down, it is quite a short amount of time. Chad Henson comes into pit lane meantime from the race lead. That's the final stop for the race leader of the race, as Tom Bryce there just goes a bit wide for, well, not to give Joe Evers an opportunity quite, but does allow him to just close up a little bit. So the pressure clearly is telling a little bit to Bryce. He probably wouldn't have made that mistake if he was on his own. Now a little look there towards turn 8, just trying to get in the mirrors slightly.
Yeah, I think Tom Bryce is thinking, hang on a second, I've had Sheldon in my rearview mirrors, and now I've got Joseph Evers behind me. What do I need to do to shake them off my tail? But again, it all comes down to that consistency, and when you're battling for, not just being ahead of a lot of the club the club team competitors, but being in an overall top 5, that's going to fill them with bags of confidence and just saying it just shows what we as an outfit are truly capable of. And again, Bryce is just going to have to be very careful with car placement as they come out of turn number 14. As Ewan, can't believe I'm about to say this, just over half an hour to go, mate.
Indeed. Only half an hour remaining in this race here this afternoon at the Porsche Club of America Team Racing Series, Road America. So preceding the iRacing special event next weekend. And of course following the IMSA schedule as well of the 5 big endurance races of that championship. We have 5 big endurance races to match that here in the Team Racing Series. That was a look down the inside there, or a move down the inside indeed from David Boyer as he's getting through a bit of traffic. It didn't quite slow down Bryce as much as I'm sure Evers was hoping, and that means that he's still hanging out on the fringes of the top 5 here, down on the brakes. And Evers has got to get closer than this. I'm not sure how he can really do it. I'm not entirely sure how bothered he is either about it, but he's got to try and get a bit closer than this, otherwise he's going to really struggle to make this move at any point in the next half an hour.
Yeah, I mean, in some respects, as you rightly say, he might not be bothered by it, but sometimes the race, as it progresses towards that end, as another drama for the last 10th Lovebirds. This time, Ken having a moment at looks like Canada corner at turn 12. Yeah, I think it's just, you know, he's just probably just focusing on the race that him and Sheldon have executed so well. It probably, you know, I mean, as we both know, Ewan, no race is perfect, and oh dear, more dramas for Dave Douglas of Machinelle 1. That's definitely a big old spin for the 141 car, and he's trying to engage a multi-point turn to get the 963 GTP pointing in the right direction. Rob Neville, the last 10th Foundry, brings the car in for its final pit stop after 25 laps on this stint. And bearing in mind, Chad Henson's pit stop time for pit in to pit out, Ewan, really mighty, I have to say. 1 minute 2.6 total transfer time, 31.9 seconds stationary on its pit box marks.
Yeah, up on the jacks for Rob Neville for one final time. Even though he doesn't need so much fuel. Might only be just over 20 seconds to us. 25 seconds for this stop. 27.4 indeed it is for Neville. He makes his way back out there again in third position and some way behind David Boyer. That gap's not going to come down on its own. He's going to require a mistake for this lead to change in the club class of the 963 category. Well, 27 minutes to go here at Road America tonight, and remind you one last time that, of course, we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises on board as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor throughout 2026. With 17 ships sailing to 345 destinations on 7 continents, world-class cuisine inspired by the places we visit, and the friendliest crew at sea, Princess is ready to welcome you on board. And specifically for PCA members, join the Treffin at Sea 2026 Pacific Wine Country Cruise on the Grand Princess, sailing from Vancouver to Los Angeles, September 19th to 25th. Go to the website link on screen, pca.princesspartnerships.com, or call 833-679-2188 to speak to a PCA travel concierge agent. That's 833-679-2188. And indeed, they'll be our title sponsor throughout season 16 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, which will start on Wednesday, August 26th of this year, with the Pro Class, the Club Class getting underway a day later, the Sport Class a week later on the next Wednesday, and the Challenge Class 8 days later on the next Thursday, with a race right here at Road America. So visiting, as you may have seen on the ticker on the bottom of your screen, has been showing you all day long. We've got Portland after that, Sonoma, Miami, Barcelona, Brands Hatch, Kota and Le Mans throughout the season. There's quite a few tracks in there that are interesting in the first half, I would say. Alex, Portland, Sonoma, Miami as a 3-race run is quite a challenge for as it will be Porsche Cup cars racing in that PCA series. That's quite a challenging 3-week schedule.
Yeah, I've commentated on some Porsche Cup races on iRacing at Miami. Let's just say that will be a bit of a curveball, I think, to quite a few drivers. But the general consensus, I'm sure, will be, now using the brand new Cup car will be, I think, quite an interesting add to season 16. So yeah, watch this space. But a triple header like that, my goodness, that is going to really get everyone scratching their heads, I think.
Yeah, indeed. It's a very difficult 3-race run, that one, to deal with. But I always like to see the slightly bizarre circuits. I mean, last calendar it's quite a lot of conventional Grand Prix circuits, I felt, with the last calendar, but often in the PCA, they do often have a character to them, the schedule as a whole, and some of the more unusual circuits are certainly the character of season 16. Well, battle for 8th place, meantime, is ongoing after the trouble for 550, and Jeremy Hall getting hit towards turn 8 early on. He's got some recovering to do again, and Hall gets down the inside in towards turn 1. And that was an easy as you like pass for 8th position with just 24 minutes to go.
Yeah, well, Ed Trippett, after the contact with Jeremy Hall, that car's not going to finish the race because it's been in pit lane for over 17 minutes. Anthony James for Missile Motors in the 210. That car has picked up a black flag and is currently serving its penalty, I would understand, in pit lane. But I think also Dave Douglas was in the pits for the third and final time. 23.4 seconds on its marks in the pit lane. Total pit lane time 54.3. Rob Neville, I have to say here, it might be the fourth pit stop for the team, but that car was stationary for 27.5 seconds. But nevertheless, he's still a minute and 10 off of the race leader. But what can you say? The good thing is, at least for looking at the positive rather than the negative we saw for Rob Neville, it's an overall top 3 finish. And okay, yes, it's going to hurt, it's going to smart a little bit, but it's about how they approach the final round on September 20th. You've got to go in there with big motivation and a positive mental attitude. You can't go, well, Road America was one to forget. Yeah, it's at that point it will be. It's now past tense. It's water under the bridge. Let bygones be bygones, and just crack on and do what you do best, which is go out there and try and win the thing. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, as you say, that it's one of the positives they can take. That obviously negative is that for Last 10th Foundry, it's 3 second places in 3 rounds now, unfortunately for them. Which, sorry, it'll be 4 and 4 indeed, 3 and 3 going into this for Last 10th Foundry, and they were doing so well as far as the class is concerned. They were ahead of Kainan Racing the whole way, really, and the fact they were challenging for the overall lead at any stage is a big positive for them. But the fact it's the same old result will absolutely sting for them. And as far as the championships are concerned, by the way, the Cat 5 Racing GTP team are not here today. See Imperial Motorsport Proto Flyer taking that, but the Cat 5 team were uncontested in the other rounds, so they've already sewn up the championship there. Unless something strange happens. Kainan Racing obviously sewing up the club class as well. They're getting an even bigger lead as it stands with their victory in the club class. Back Markham Motorsports, are at the head of the sport class of the GTPs, and they are at the head of today's field as well, ahead of Max Schnell 1, so they are pulling ahead further again. Well, the gap was only 66 heading into today's race, but it's gone the right way for Back Markham Motorsports. And Last 10th Lovebirds are the only ones from GTP Challenge, as Missile Motors go into a spin meantime from the club class. Now, weren't they running second? Well, maybe not at the time, actually. They were earlier, but Anthony James just seemingly another one of those spins getting on the power coming out of turn 3. We've seen a few of those.
Yeah, well, he did have a black flag, so those tyres would have caused significantly with a 30-second transfer time on the drive-through, trundling down at the pit lane speed limit. So, yeah, that'll be partially cold tyres, partially cold brakes, and yeah, just an unfortunate mistake. I mean, these races are still very much under pressure, but here we go. This is the battle for the overall top 5. Tom Bryce from Last 10th 016 versus the 83 Motorsports of Joe Evers. And we've got 20 minutes on the counter still to go here, Ewan. I'm going to say this is not quite decided yet, and I'm looking at the lap times now. Joe Evers was over 0.3 of a second quicker on the previous lap, but he needs to be a lot closer than that coming out of turn number 14 to even consider a potential late break dive to the inside of T1 on Tom Bryce.
Yeah, I was about to say actually not so long ago that Evers he'd lost a second at some point. He was a second to a second and a half behind at one point. I was thinking in my own head, nearly said it out loud, that that was that then for 5th position, but it just seems that little bit of traffic there. I think we just caught it coming out the carousel, has actually recreated this battle again. And Bryce just has something to think about, but I think what he's shown in the last sort of 20 minutes or so is that he's got the speed to then pull away again, and I think he's showing us that once again here. Every time that Evers gets just a little bit closer, Bryce has the speed, when all things are equal here, when there's no lap traffic around, that he does have the speed to pull away from Evers at the, or in this battle, I should say, for 5th position.
Yeah, the biggest thing is that I've noticed, again, I've been mentioning about the middle sector here at Road America. There are some drivers that just seem to have that purchase, that grip. And well, I did notice that between Tom Bryce and Joe Evers, well, Joe Evers has lost 6/10 in the opening sector. The last lap those two did, Evers was a second quicker than Bryce. But at that point, Bryce was having to deal with back marker traffic, or having to deal with oncoming traffic as well. And that's where the big thing is. Yes, we've only got 6 GTP cars, well, still running, but it's the case of the leading GTP cars, when they're catching these drivers that are battling, when they get past Tom Bryce is put between a rock and a hard place, and then has to think, right, oh, there's another 963, there's another 963. But it's not a complacent saying that, it's more the case of, okay, right, how can I deal with this so that Joe Evers does not catch me and pass me? That's the key point. But that last lap, well, put it this way, nearly 1.3 seconds quicker. So again, it's when Bryce has faster oncoming GTP traffic closing in on him, that's where you, as I said, you get put between that rock and a hard place. But he's got clear air now. Now that the track temperature has hit, we're under 35 degrees, and 34 degrees Celsius, 93 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is where drivers like Tom Bryce will take advantage of that. And that's why they're in the class that they're in. And, well, put it this way, Joe Evers, I think he's starting to respond a little bit here. He's just got a tenth quicker in the opening sector. So I think with 16.5 minutes to go, P5 still very much undecided at the moment, because there is about 1.25 seconds between the 016 and the 83.
Yeah, definitely undecided. Definitely a lot of factors still to come in here. There's the race leading GTP going past. Now that might well signal how many laps these guys have left, if that's the last time they're going to be lapped, so they can start to match that up with how many laps Chad Henson has left. And the number on that, though, is unclear at the moment. It could be 6 laps. It could be 8 laps rather. It could be 9. Depends on how many. What time he crosses the line this time. I think it'll be 9 laps to go. If he continues on at a sort of 1:54 pace, even he might go quicker than that. Obviously, 1:52 is the fastest lap of the race so far, and with these conditions, we might well be seeing some of the faster laps of the day. 53.1. I think that does signal 9 laps to go.
Yeah, because when you think about it, 9 laps to go. Yeah, but you probably think, I'm sort of the same thought process as well. It's either going to be 9 or maybe on a push, maybe 10 laps. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? Just the way that Huth and Henson have done. They just kept this lead quite consistent to the tune of 27 seconds. But we're into the final quarter of an hour. And track temp still dropping, Ewan. Again, I did say if we got under like 35 degrees, we're now at 33 degrees Celsius. And I think it could further drop still. We could be possibly closing in on air and track temp matching each other here.
Yeah. I think this race may end before we get there, but it won't be far off. It won't be far off in 15 minutes' time. Looking at what we're seeing right now, there's a continuing evolution of the gap over the course of this race, just ebbing and flowing between Evers and Bryce in the last few moments. As you can see, I'll just continue my run through the championship implications of this race, by the way. In GT3, there really aren't very many. Most of the championship leaders are also winning the race. So Saltpep Precision Racing, that is the case for. They're about to take their third win out of 4 this season. They only failed to win at Sebring so far. In the club class, the R-Speed Black team, who are currently leading the championship, are not actually here today. So we're going to get a new winner in the club class. And it looks like it is going to be the Stallions GT3 team. They're not the ones who are going to take the championship lead over, though, because they missed the first round at Daytona. It's going to be the Gone Broke Racing team, who started the day only slightly in front, 102 points in front of Missile Motors. They're going to finish this race ahead of them as well by more than a minute 20. And so they will extend what will become their championship lead in that class now. In the GT3 Sport class, the motorsports team, we've been really marvelling over here. We're currently watching close in the battle for 5th position is also the championship leaders, so they will extend that to well over 100 points down, almost out of sight for the others. And the Alder Creek Performance Racing team in the challenge class will also extend that lead in challenge with their result today. So all of the championships across the board really extending advantages in their respective classes. It's really about the race itself rather than any implications. It's really about what's happening in the race. And Evers is getting closer here. He really is at the moment on Tom Bryce. Yes, definitely helped by that little bit of traffic, but nevertheless, he is putting the pressure on again.
Yeah, gap is now half a second. Yeah, I sometimes pictures paint 1,000 words, Ewan. I'm going to keep my mouth shut about this battle as much as I can because it's been so entertaining to watch.
Well, look in the background, the Saltpep Precision Racing car that is leading this race is about to lap them. David Mendonca has put on an absolute clinic here today, and he's the one who's really taken the race into Saltpep's control. Yes, it was a good start earlier on from Rory Prescott, but he was fighting closely with Chris Pies. That was eradicated fairly quickly after David Mendonca got into this car. He's the reigning Series 15 champion in the Pro class, breaking the stranglehold that Bryce Rodriguez has had over that championship in recent years. He'll have to defend it in a 992 Cup car, which will be interesting to watch when it comes to August, in 4 weeks' time or so, 4.5 weeks' time, but it looks like at the moment he is an exceptionally quick driver, and here he comes to lap 5th and 6th position in this race. That says it all, really, and it's not like we're at a short racetrack either. It's a more than 2-minute lap time where he's lapping a top 5 competitor in the next few moments.
Yeah, and that's not really anything to be sniffed at, but here comes Mendonca with a big rate of speed. Just under 11 minutes to go. Yeah, that track temp is dropping, but also dusk is now starting to set in as we're fast approaching 7 p.m. sim time here at Road America. Yeah, I'm wondering what might happen if Evers just says to David Mendonca, yeah, just go on by and then wait. But he can't wait for long if Mendonca goes through, fires it through on the inside of Tom Bryce to get past and puts him the lap down. There could be another twist in the tail yet, Ewan.
Yeah, there definitely could be. 10 minutes to go for Chad Henson crossing the line in a minute. And that means 6 laps to go at this stage, given the lap times that he's doing at the front. This has been, and there he is down there. It's been a battle that has stayed like this for so long now. You just wonder where not Bryce, sorry, he's the one defending it, where Joe Evers is actually going to make the difference here, because Bryce has gotten so used to having Joe Evers running at that sort of... And to be fair, Evers has never actually been close enough to make a move at any stage. Bryce has done a good job at keeping him at arm's length, but even if he is within range, I don't know what he's going to do here, because he's going to have to break such a stalemate that's lasted for almost an hour at this point.
At least, yeah. It's but I think it's good in terms of Evers and Zachariah, you know, just challenging themselves. And that's the big thing. When you go to a race and you compete, the thing is that what drivers will have every single time, that's what they look forward to, is the challenge of competition. And when you got two cars, which look to be, here at Road America, Ewan, very, very closely matched. And when I'm going to say this now, Joe Evers was nearly a quarter of a second quicker than Tom Bryce. But again, it's going through respective sectors. Bryce quicker in the opening sector. And now we ride on board with Joe. I think it doesn't matter. I think, as you rightly pointed out, they may not be completely bothered, but I think this is a showcase of what we might see maybe at the final round on September 20th at Road Atlanta. How strong this partnership can really be, and they've proved that they deserve to be in the overall top 5 in the GT3 division.
Yeah, indeed. There's always, of course, discussions about where each driver in the regular series, and indeed, therefore, where these guys should be in the team series as far as their driver classification is concerned. For Evers and his teammate Zaharchuk, that is in the sport class, the 3rd division of racing in the PCA. Chasing down the Pro Class driver Tom Bryce, who's taken over from Saji Zuhair, who took the car to the start. Unfortunately got them a penalty, which has effectively taken them sort of 45 seconds further back from where they otherwise could have been, which maybe equals could have been a podium. Obviously racing never quite works like that, but nevertheless, if you do take those 45 seconds off, they would be in 3rd, so something worth thinking about there. But the fact is, they did get that incident involved in that incident. They did get that penalty, and they've now just got to fight for what they've got. 5th place in the classes looks like it's what it's going to be. But a 5th place overall is what they're protecting here, with just less than 7 minutes to go. And 5 laps to go for these guys, by the way. It will be 4 at the line for Henson. Well, we'll see whether he laps them again, but should be 5 to go for these guys and 4 for Henson when he just about comes to the line in a moment.
Yeah, looks like the road has come to an end here at Road America for Machinel Ains. So both of the teams, Dave Douglas has been stationary in pit lane for over 8.25 minutes, so it looks like that team is going to have a rethink, but it just goes to show that this track, for some drivers here, Ewan is a clear favourite, and some drivers it's a bit Marmite. You know, they either love it or they hate it, and then there's times when you have a really, really good run of form and say, yeah, really love that track, and then you have an absolute pitiful race, and then you just think, it's too long before I next see that track. You know, so there's always that sort of those peaks and troughs in racing. You know, your heart has to go out to the Machinel Motorsport crew for both teams in GTP and GT3. It's not how they would have wanted to end the penultimate round of the season, but they still should have an opportunity to try and be as competitive as they can and have an incident-free race, hopefully, in the final round.
Indeed, on Road Atlanta, the final round of the season. Another 3-hour race in store for us. So we get on board again with Evers here, in behind Tom Bryce. I don't think this is going to happen now, to be honest with you. Less than 5 minutes to go. 4 laps to go still for them, such as where they are positioned compared to the leader, unless Henson really gets on with it and laps these guys again, which I'm not sure he's going to. But despite that extra lap than what they otherwise might have done, Evers is not going to get anywhere near making this move unless there's something go drastically different to how this battle has gone in the last hour. This is by far the closest, by the way, on the racetrack, as you can see, with the GTPs on the left-hand side. They're quite spread apart. Closest battle, 25 seconds between David Boyer and Chad Henson, for indeed the race lead overall, which has been closing, but it's probably just Henson taking it a little bit easier. There is also Dave Jones versus Leon Snyman here, side by side. It's for the challenge class victory in fact. Thought this was pretty much done, but Dave Jones into the lead of the challenge class in GT3, and this is a fight right to the end of this race for challenge class honours.
Well, considering the fact that they joined us, Ewan, last time out at the midway point of the season at the Glen and had a pretty good result there, but can they make it a first win? Well, it's going to be tough, but you have to look at it from this perspective. Dave Jones and Patrick Aguiar, they've done a really good job to hold on to this point, but it's down the inside for the number 6. Alder Creek Performances, Leon Snyman getting through. Again, it just goes to show that you can come into a season midway through it and instantly be competitive. As Snyman, it's a bit of a dip into the dust and the gravel there on the right rear tyre. That could have nearly spun the car around 180 right into the path of Dave Jones, but luckily enough, Leon Snyman having the presence of mind of being able to just keep the throttle down fully and just hold on for dear life. But still, this is another battle that's gotten really close now in the GT3 side of things. But again, after 3 hours, you want to see these close finishes, and it's sort of, you know, that adrenaline spike comes into play. But nevertheless, Chad Henson is on our, I would say, more than likely, he's just going through sector 1 now on lap 93. So I think you might be right, Ewan. It's more than likely this and 1 to go.
Yeah, he's going to see the white flag when he next crosses the line here. He, by the way, last time round set his personal best lap time of this race, a 1:51.7. It's not the fastest lap of the race entirely, though, because the time before last for David Boyer, he set a 1:51.4, which is currently the best time in the race overall. It's a remarkable lap time, and just shows you just how these temperatures have dipped now. 32 degrees Celsius, 90 Fahrenheit. We're not quite going to get that crossover of air temperature to track temperature quite, but it has really cooled down from the 140s, which this temperature was into earlier on with the track. That made the tyre management super crucial in the early parts of this race. Now it's less so, and in fact the tyres are still healthy at this end of the stint to go for some of the fastest laps, and in some cases the fastest lap of the entire race.
Yeah, it's always good to see that when drivers are given optimum track temps and then they can push like it's going back to qualifying. Flash of the headlights by our leading car. But what a drive it's been for Imperial Motorsports. They had the opportunity to maybe win both respective classes, and he has a bit of a wobble there coming out of that final corner. That's not what you want to do with 1 lap to go there. Not what you want to do at all. Bit of a definite clench of some description.
Almost looked like he was sort of faking to come into pit lane for some reason. I don't know why. He doesn't have time even for a drive-through, so not really sure what that was all about. Maybe he's on his last lap of fuel right now, and he would have been out if this race had gone on 1 more. But he's just thankful to see the white flag. I'm not sure, but hey, what? Everyone's going to see the white flag now 1 more time around at Road America.
Yeah, what a race it's been. White flag in the air, last lap. What a job it's been by Huth and Henson in the Imperial Motorsport Proto Flyer, number 13. You know what, Ewan? This has been an absolute cracking race. And again, America's National Park of Speed delivers in spades.
Yeah, it certainly does. Always does. And for the penultimate round of the Porsche Club of America Team Racing Series, it has as well. There's still 1 more round to go and a job to do for most of these championship contending teams, of which the Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer team are actually not one. This is their first appearance this season in the GTP Pro class, but they've certainly made a mark on the series, as they were always going to. We know how strong Imperial Motorsports have been in other classes, and indeed with their drivers in our regular series of PCA racing. Here they're showing it though in the team racing series at the very head of the field for the first time. Out of the final corner for Chad Henson. And for Imperial Motorsports Proto Flyer, they're going to win here after 3 hours at Road America in the team racing series at PCA. Henson with the pleasure of taking the car over the line to see the checkered flag first. A fantastic drive from Henson. And early on, of course, set up as well for him to get in and try to close out the deal, and he does so here for Henson. Here's David Boyer for the Kainan Racing team. 40 seconds down on the leader, but the class winner in the club class there, at least in second position. Rob Neville will be in third place overall. It will be some time before the Soul Precision Racing can enjoy their victory, as well as some of these GT3s are scrambling here because they haven't got enough fuel. Jim Walsh has got a black flag to his name, by the way, for some reason. I think he might be out of fuel here. He seems to be limping here. He's no longer going to get that fourth position. He might not even get a top five. Joseph Evers has really dropped off the back of Tom Bryce, but he's not dropped back so much. So as he can't get past Walsh, he will get his top five after all.
Yeah, Brad Dunn from Chroma Motorsports White has got a black flag and it's in pit lane. But more to the point, Robbie Campbell and David Mendonca, they are on course for what has been a lights out to checkered flag victory here over the last 3 hours. Yeah, they are absolutely just trying to just bring it home. And that's exactly what happened to the car in front. Mendonca's bump drafting him up through Bill Mitchell Bend. That's car 55, Jim Walsh. I think Mendonca's just going to say, yeah, Jim, let me give you a little bit. Yeah, he's bump drafting him. He's just pushing him along. But the thing is, Mendonca's got a 42-second lead over Imperial Motorsports' Matt Quinn, so he can just give Jim a little bit of a, I'll help you over the line, buddy. What a way to take a victory here at Road America. David Mendonca for Solpec Precision Racing will take the overall GT3 victory along with Robbie Campbell, and Jim Walsh.
Oh my word! Sorry. Walsh has completely failed there. I mean, he forgot that he's still not finished the race yet. He was shaping to come into pit lane, so Mendonca thought, oh right, I've been pushing somebody who's already finished. He's just carried on. Walsh has realised, oh no, I do actually have to finish this race actually, and now he's got no one to push him and he's got no fuel left. So that was a complete fail there, caught for everyone to see as well. Sorry about that, Jim, but that was that's for everybody to see. He will still be credited with 6th place, as Mendonca would have been with the win, even if something had happened on that last lap, by the way, because Mendonca was credited with an extra lap compared to the rest of the field. But that was a bit of a weird ending.
I know.
In the end, sorry, go on.
I know. Just to think, they could have maybe fueled for a couple more seconds and just got across the line, but yeah, not the best way to finish a race. But hey, onwards and upwards, Ewan.
Oh, indeed. Chad Henson wins the race overall, and of course in the pro class. David Boyer finishes second and Rob Neville finishes third. Those two club class drivers. The sport class won by Chris Costis in GTP. Lisa Eskridge carries the car across the line in the challenge class, and Dave Douglas finishes the race in the 141. David Mendonca indeed credited with an extra lap compared to the rest, such as his dominance in the second part of this race in front of Matt Quinn, who brings that car over the line in second place. Mike Patterson in the end pretty much on his own in third, because Tom Bryce and Joe Evers moved up, with Jim Walsh having that trouble on the last lap. Dale Green also moved up. Joe Evers, the sport class winner. Jeremy Hall, the club class winner, finishes 8th ahead of Brad Dunn, with Leon Snyman, the challenge class winner, in 10th position. Dave Jones was another one of the finishers, along with Chris Sherburn, Ashley James, David Langston. Ed Trippett was delayed towards the end there and might not have actually crossed the line, not sure, but certainly ends up quite a few laps down. Let's have a chat, shall we, to James Hoof and Chad Henson, who are the race victors here today from the GTP Pro class, and we can bring them both in now. Welcome in both. Congratulations on a race victory here this afternoon. Start with you, Chad, who got the pleasure of crossing the line. It wasn't all so easy when you came into the car, though. You were battling with Rob Neville and the Last 10th Foundry team as you got in, and quite quickly that went away. But what was the early part of that stint like as you were really getting up to speed here this afternoon?
Yeah, I think the hardest part was coming in mid-stint with the accelerated time and weather changing. I had not practiced in any conditions that were that hot, so when I came out on cold tires and full fuel and he'd already had 2 laps on me, I was sort of debating, do I fuel save because we're already a couple laps ahead of them, or do I push, and, managing traffic and stuff. So, yeah, I was a little busy at the beginning, but then they had a little mishap, and that gave me some space to kind of balance those two things out, and then I waited for the second stint to really start pushing.
And James Hoof also joining us. James, what about that battle that you had in your stint there for the first hour and a half for the lead? It was excellent to watch. Will Wolf got a bit ahead of you because of the mistake down towards turn 5, but you still ran him down, still gave us a battle for the lead through most of that first hour and a half. Just tell us what your stint was like there.
Oh, you couldn't pry the smile off my face. I was having a ball. He had a really good run, and he had some serious pace, obviously a bit lower wing because I could catch him on the corners. And on the straights, I just tucked in behind him and saved some fuel and had some really fast laps going. It was a tremendous amount of fun. So hats off to those guys for pulling off a fantastic race. And we were going to go down to the wire. They had a mistake that cost them more time than our mistake, but otherwise we were really equally partnered out there. It was a ball.
Congratulations to you both on taking the overall victory today from Road America, and thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the day as well.
Thank you, kind sirs.
Yeah, thank you guys for the podcast and everything you do. Makes these a lot more fun. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Chad Henson, James Hoof here tonight. The winners of the overall race here at Road America. In the club class for GTPs, it was Charlie and David Boyer who were able to take the victory here today, and Charlie joins us now. Charlie, welcome in. Congratulations on yourselves at Kainan Racing taking another race victory this season, but for a while there you were trailing the Last 10th Foundry team. Just how confident were you at that stage with an hour and a half or so gone when they were quite a way ahead of you and fighting for the overall win while you were watching on? How confident were you could turn that gap around and take the win today?
We were pretty confident in our pace, and we knew when the temps went down that we would have good pace. But we also recognize that we have the class championship wrapped up if we just show up and don't get disqualified. So we were perfectly happy managing traffic carefully, and a little surprised to be talking to you right now. But we just kept a clean race, and that's what results.
And yeah, that's got you another result here in this successful season. Congratulations, Charlie, and of course to David as well on the great race for Kainan Racing here this afternoon. And thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the race as well.
Yeah, thanks so much. I just give a shout out. This is David, my last race of the season. There is one more race in the series. We're going to have to turn it over to Andy Jenks, our team member, but it's been great running with my son all season, and I was happy to see him turn in a pretty scorching fast lap at the end there. So thanks to all. Thanks for the coverage too.
Great to have you along. It's Charlie Boyer, part of the Kainan Racing team, who've won in the club class here of the 963s here today, along with David Boyer as well, who they'll hand it over in the last round of the season. Let's go down to GT3 now, where David Mendonca and Robbie Prescott have taken victory in the GT3 class overall, and of course in the Pro class as well. Welcome in both. Start with you, Robbie, since you started the car and started in quite a battle, I've got to say, between yourselves and the Imperial Motorsports team. Chris Pies was your competitor, if you like, in your half of the race. Tell us what that fight was like, because you both handed the car over, yourself and Chris, with pretty much dead level, a dead heat between the two of you. What was it like?
Yeah, it was pretty fun. Pies is a very legit driver, and I respect the heck out of him. So I knew since I put it on pole, if I could just keep a somewhat of a little margin between us, I knew once David got the car, he'd be okay and can run away from everyone. But always never knowing what Pies was going to do. I knew he was dipping some fuel, so I had a feeling he was going to get a couple extra laps when we came into the pits. But just to kind of keep him behind us as best I could, and hand the car off to David in a clean fashion.
And you did just that, David. What was it like getting into the car at that stage? Pretty much dead on halfway in the race. You were up against Matt Quinn from Imperial Motorsports, and in the end, you come home with a very comfortable margin. What was your 90 minutes like?
Yeah, it was fun. Just trying to keep it clean and trying to prevent off tracks. That's my problem usually. Robbie did all the hard work, like I said, put on pole and led most of the race. So when I got in, it was just pretty much easy sailing.
Well, congratulations on bringing home the race victory. Another race victory for Soul Pet Precision Racing this season. And thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the race as well.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Yep.
Shout out to Solpec, Abruzzi, and Cosmos for the sponsors, and it's been a fun season so far.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Robbie Prescott, David Mendonca, the winners in the Pro class of the GT3s here today. I would normally go to the club class next, so there's a second division, but let's go to the sport class next because it's been a great drive from Joe Evers and Sheldon Zaharachuk, who can now join us. A top 5 overall for them as well. Welcome in both. Good to have you with us. I'll start with you, Joe, since you ended the race in the car and were able to cross the line after a top 5 in overall GT3. Despite the fact you're a sport class team, you also beat all the club class teams. How does it feel to get such a great result in this round at Road America today?
It feels really good. I mean, I think obviously people are running out of fuel at the end, including us, but we made it. Yeah, it was super fun. It was, I think, one of the cleanest races in the series, and I love Road America, so it was awesome.
And Sheldon, tell us about the difference it makes, the fact that you've had such a good overall position in GT3 with a top 5 here, as opposed to just winning in the sport class, which you have managed before in this season. What does it add to this result that you've been able to take such a good overall result and really mix it with the pros throughout your and Joe's stint throughout that race?
It feels really good. We've both been promoted to club for the next season, and so we're basically trying to compete against them. And to be up to competing with the pros is a really good feeling. We had a very clean race, and both of us had awesome times, and it's just a really nice feeling.
Congratulations to you both on competing very well with the pros and the clubs here today at Road America. Thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the race as well.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Sheldon Zaharachuk, Joe Evers chatting to us there as sport class winners. Now we'll go to the club class winners as normally advertised. Chad Casey on finishing in as part of the team, indeed, winning the club class today. Chad, welcome in. Congratulations on the win. How nervy was it watching on there as Jeremy Hall got involved in an incident? Admittedly, not his fault, but nevertheless gave you guys a little bit of damage and maybe a bit more of a stressful final hour, was it, than what you were hoping for?
Yeah, I mean, what was a very clean race and a pretty good run that we had. It was a little disheartening to see that, and unfortunately we couldn't really do much to avoid it. But kudos to Jeremy for being able to bring that car back without having to get a tow, and we didn't lose any positions. So fortunate for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what does this sort of give you going forward in the rest of the season now? Because you've missed a round in the championship, obviously at Daytona, means you're not necessarily championship contenders. Are we going to see you at Road Atlanta hoping for one more victory?
Yeah, we're a little bit behind, like you said, because of the missed races, and we're just going to kind of crank away, and I think we'll be at Road Atlanta, and we're just going to do our best like we've been doing, and if it results in some kind of position for us for the team racing series, we'll take it.
Well, congratulations on your result today, Chad, and thanks for chatting to us at the end of the race as well.
Okay, thank you, and thank everybody for clean racing today.
Thanks very much, Chad Casey, on part of the club class winners here today in GT3, and Tim Taplin, part of the challenge class winners as well, joins us now. Tim, congratulations on a challenge class victory and what's a dramatic finish in the end in the challenge class for GT3s here today. Tell us about what it was like to watch on as your teammate Leon there was able to take and contribute towards that race victory with a pass towards the end there.
Yeah, that was just a race-long chase. We kept picking up a little pace. Leon set personal best several times in that last stint. We just kept kind of running them down. I started us off a little slow, trying to be careful, and just didn't keep up with everybody at the beginning. And we spent the rest of the race playing catch-up. But consistent, steady, kept improving our pace. It was a good race.
Well, congratulations on taking the victory here, Tim, with Alder Creek Pumps Racing. And thanks for chatting to us at the end of the race as well.
No worries. Have a great one.
Thanks so much, Tim Taplin, the Challenge Class winner, alongside Leon Snyman here today. Road Atlanta is our next venue for the Team Racing Series on September 20th. 2026, so make sure you join us for that one, obviously live on RaceSpotTV. Before then, on August 26th, we'll be back at Road America for the first round of Series 16 in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, so make sure you join us for that as well. Big thanks to everyone who's been tuned in tonight on RaceSpotTV for this latest round of the Team Racing Series. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Alex Goldsmith with Hugo Louise behind the cameras for this second half of the race, until we see you for either Series 16 starting in late August or indeed the next Team Racing Series round. It's goodbye for now.
Some trips are felt beyond words. No one connects you to the Caribbean like Princess. Princess Cruises, sailing the Caribbean. Book now.